Good evening, clients. Sorry, something was stuck in my teeth. Good evening, clients, regulars, patrons, and watchers from across the galaxy. Welcome to the Rusted Boar. Yeah, I think... Now I have to unmute you. Fuck. Okay, say something. Lofam? Shit, now he's muted. Okay. Back to...
And his name was John Cena!
Fuck you!
I know. Anyway, continue.
Okay. Today is Sunday, April 4th, 3307. We are currently docked at Port Falgar on Saltwine 1 Alpha. For those of you boarding the ship, we hope you have a fantastic flight with us. The bounties are currently unchanged from the last broadcast. Finally, before we start, today's opening music is brought to you by and with explicit permission of Dan Mason and Nick Nitro. Check them out with the sauce command. This is not a request. Do it. This Sebuther vidcast is brought to you by viewers like you. Thank you. Our weekly schedule is posted on the comm server. Please join using the link below if you would like more up-to-date notifications. Let me just throw that link down for those that aren't in it. Most are, but still. Sit back, grab a drink, leave your shoes at the door, and have a fantastic time. And with me today, we have everyone's favorite bird officer of the Rusted Boar, executive bitch. The executive bitch.
I mean, I can just go. I don't have to be here. I mean...
Executive bitch. Likes
Alright, fine.
bananas.
Just 1 second. Continue on. I'm just going to mute right here real quick. I'll be back in a couple hours.
No!
I hope everything goes well.
No! No! Don't do this to me.
Is
I
that
can't
an
read the
apology
book.
I hear?
No.
Oh, okay. 1 second. I'll be right back.
No! Oh, fam! Oh, fam is big. I'm sorry. Come back.
See, that's what I thought I heard.
I'm not sorry.
Oh, okay. 1 second. I just gotta get with. Oh, I gotta go to the. I gotta get some smokes. We'll be right back.
Okay, let's move on from this bit. Love him. Fine, I'm sorry. Are you happy?
Dedicated.
Fuck you.
All right.
Dedicated to the bit. My ass. You are never that dedicated to any bits we ever do until this one fucking time.
See, no, you gotta keep it a little. You gotta mix it up a little bit to make sure it keep you off your game. By the way, do I sound? I think they said something about the music being too loud. I'm not sure. Oh no, I don't know.
It shouldn't be. The music is at... Because the filters are working fine. The music is going down quite a lot.
Now, so I do want to mention that I am using my new setup. So if I sound slightly different, it is because of that.
What is your new setup? Please tell me. As an audio connoisseur.
Well, the actual hardware has not changed, but my position in relation to it has. So one of the things that I was doing before is that I had one of those like plastic temporary tables, like picnic tables that you'd set up.
Yeah, like my...
And then
that's
that was
essentially
where my
desk, yeah.
keyboard and stuff was. That's also... Now, see, that plastic was really... I really didn't like it because the microphone stand I had, you had to like tighten it up to obviously do it.
Yeah,
but
of course.
that table did not have anything really good, and so it was like squishing it, and it would move.
Yeah,
Whenever I had
it's
moved the
also
microphone, it would just
sticky
shift.
to the touch when it gets warm out. Plastic is just very
It's just annoying.
yucky.
And
Yeah.
so one of the things I have shifted to is I got a kotatsu.
Yeah.
And so that's just basically a table. It's a low table. I have a ground chair now, so I'm sitting on the ground now. I mean, one could say I'm grounded.
One could say that you're really, really becoming Japanese.
Ah, yes, I'm.
I really
fluid.
think
No.
so. I love that.
no,
I
what it
loved
is
that
I've
song
just-
when I was a kid.
No, I've always enjoyed being on the ground, and so because I can be on the ground now, I did so. I mean, it's not that difficult.
It's honestly nicer too because things like kotatsus generally take up a little bit less space, and they kind of just make the room feel
Well, that was
more
also
open.
one of the things as well, is because I have the kotatsu and I'm just using like a ground chair. I don't need a full chair like this. I'll basically be getting rid of that chair, and I'm gonna be having significantly more room. I also got rid of a dresser. I'm just like hanging up my clothes in my closet.
I pack my futon up every morning now, and my room just feels so much more open. Like without
That's
a
another
bed
thing
in-
I'm gonna be doing, is that I'll be able to pack up my futon as well at the same time, and then my room will be really open, which is nice.
I mean, when I move out, my landlord will probably be angry that I got rid of the bed, but the bed was all fucked up anyway. It was like 7 years old, and like springs
I'm
were
sure you're
sticking
gonna pay
out,
for it
so-
100%. Whether or
Oh,
not that was
well-
a good thing or they wanted it, they'll make you pay
Well,
for it.
well, no. Either way, I'm not getting my security deposit back because this particular apartment is not well maintained in the first place. Like it just isn't in
Oh,
general.
I see.
So there was no way in hell that I was gonna get my security deposit back. So I was like,
I'll see you in heck.
I'm not being spiteful about it or anything, but I can't have something that, well, for one, is probably infested with bed bugs. For two, is broken and probably fucking with my
Well,
back more
I wouldn't say
need.
it is specifically infested with bed bugs, but the building is. From
Oh,
what
for
it
sure.
sounds like.
But the specific bed was probably also infested on the inside because there were holes in it that they could crawl into.
Mmm, delicious.
Ever since I got rid of it and I started spraying with the cedar side again, I've had no problems. I still get hives occasionally, but they're not bites. I just get hives on my legs occasionally because I just break out to things. I don't know what it is. My mom had the same problem at my age.
When I
so-
get like really, really hot in like a specific area, like, so if I just like leave my arm out to the sun for some reason, I could break out in hives like that. I've seen that happen. I'm just saying.
Yeah, no. My mom had the same problem, so I'm just assuming it's genetic. It's just something going on, but it doesn't
Yeah,
bother
you're
me
just
that much.
weak.
It doesn't bother me that much because they're not like super itchy, so I'm just like whatever. I just kind of ignore it. Securely deposit some knowledge into my skull. All right, we can do that.
Well,
some
what
water.
kind of knowledge are you thinking about though? That's a big question.
Philosophy, I assume.
Well, I mean, do we really want to help them?
Yes.
Really? Do we?
Yes. That's the point of this stream.
I don't know.
Are you having
worth
doubts? Are they worthy? You should say, are they worthy?
No, I said, are they worth it?
I know. You should.
Are
instead,
you?
Are you
Prove it to
worthy?
me.
Are you the chosen one? Tell me.
Yeah, I know. I'm totally the chosen one. I'm the chosen one. Yes.
All right.
me.
All right.
So I'll be starting this time since you started last time.
I don't even remember, so I'm just gonna take your word for it.
You did, in fact.
You could say it next time too, and I would fucking take your word for it because I can't remember who starts each time we do this.
Am I the only one paying attention here?
I pay attention to the book, but I don't really log non-important information like who starts into my brain.
Obviously.
I was honestly just
Maybe your cup
I
is
was
just too
told-
small to hold all the information that is important.
no, I just like Sherlock Holmes. I purge that which is unuseful.
Yeah, sure.
Also, I started using an old Blue Eyes White Dragon first print as my bookmark because it's all fucked up, so I can't play with it anymore.
Blue
And
eyes.
I'm-
Blue eyes, white dragon.
The legendary dragon is a powerful engine of destruction, virtually invincible. Very few have faced this awesome creature and lived to tell the tale.
All right, I have a joke that I can't say since we're streaming, but remind me of that when we're all streaming. I'll go ahead and tell the joke.
Okay, that was probably pretty spicy, I assume.
No, yeah, it's pretty spicy. I'm not gonna. I mean, we can only handle so much spice level.
Emmy
when we're
made
streaming, okay?
Emmy made a spicy joke yesterday, and I was like, all right, I'm gonna have to delete that VOD and send it to you to like make a supercut. Because it's
Yeah,
it's
you can
not,
do the work
it's not
because you
quite,
messed up, right?
It's not too spicy for YouTube, but it is definitely too spicy for Twitch. Like holy shit. so I'm going to be deleting
Don't worry,
that
Fracta.
document.
I'll say it elsewhere. I mean, maybe I could just type it and then. You know what? Actually, what?
Go ahead and type it.
To keep the mystery, I'm gonna type it out to you, and you can tell me whether it's too spicy.
All right, fine. God damn it. Happy Easter, by the way. That's not too spicy.
Are you sure?
I'm pretty sure.
No, then
You're
you can
not-
say it then.
Like, saying, I summoned thee, blue eyes white bitch. You're not specifically talking about anyone, so it's not too spicy.
Oh. I mean,
And if you were talking about me, I would just, you know, I would just like, I would just shrug it off like, it's just our normal banter. So
Yeah.
Twitch wouldn't
Okay.
give a shit.
I'm just saying. I'm careful these days, considering Twitch is so
No, for sure.
trigger
Emmy
happy?
said something that was absolutely way too spicy for stream yesterday.
Okay.
Anyway, go ahead.
Are you ready?
Yes.
So
we
I just
are.
want to remind everybody. So today is Philosophy Forum, right? You didn't even
Mm-hmm.
say the name. I can't believe you didn't say the name.
Philosophy Forum.
And so we'll be going through Chapter 5 of Marcus Aurelius' Meditations. After that, we'll be doing
Spicy
rap.
as an ice cube.
Yeah. I mean, to be fair, you could like just imagine if you had. Oh, wouldn't that be kind of funny? You just had like chili powder in an ice cube.
I've done it. It feels really weird.
Yeah, I'm sure it does. It's like icy hot, but
Well,
on your tongue.
yeah, because like the capsaicin makes you actually activates like the spite like the pain, so it feels like it's hot but also cold. It's a very just don't do it. It's very strange.
I mean, Pepsi and ice. I have had like Coca-Cola ice cubes. They're perfectly fine.
I don't like Coca-Cola or Pepsi-Cola.
Yeah, well, you're just an alien. It's all right.
It's
Okay.
too sweet.
No, okay. Coca-Cola is not too sweet. Pepsi is way too sweet.
They're both too sweet for me. That's all.
Okay. Oh yeah. So we'll be doing Raft after this. I hope our volumes are good. I hope that. I hope our volumes are reasonable, that you can
Yeah,
hear us
it
both.
looks
and our
like
banter.
it looks like the levels are cutting off the music just fine. So
Now, before we start, I just want to make sure we'll do a quick posture check. And
Mm-hmm.
do you have anything to drink to make sure before we get any hydrations?
I have
Because
an
I had
entire
coffee,
gallon of
water, and Gatorade, so I am prepared.
entire gallon of water and some G Fuel hydration mix.
G Fuel. Yes. What a gamer.
It's like Gatorade
right.
but cheaper.
it's powder. That's
like-
why.
Well, yeah, it's like Pedialyte but also cheaper. Cheaper than the Pedialyte powder.
No, I was actually thinking about specifically why that kind of stuff is more expensive than, say, other things. And it's actually not because it's too expensive to make. It's literally just the weight. Because you have to ship that weight in some way, and that just costs money.
Oh, for sure.
And it's literally not because it in itself is just the weight. So yeah. All right. Anyway, in the morning, when you rise reluctantly, let this thought be present: I am rising to do the work of a human being. Why then am I dissatisfied if I'm going to do the things for which I exist and for which I was brought into the world? Or have I been made for this, to lie in the bedclothes and keep myself warm? But this is more pleasant. Do you exist then to take your pleasure and not at all for action or exertion? Do you not see the little plants, the little birds, the ants, the spiders, the bees working together to put in order the various parts of the universe? And are you unwilling to do the work of a human being? And do you not make haste to do which is according to your nature? But it is necessary to take rest also. It is necessary, however. Nature has fixed bounds to this too. She has fixed bounds to eating and drinking, and yet you go beyond these bounds. Beyond that is what is sufficient. Yet in your acts it is not so, but you stop short of what you can do. So do not love yourself, for if you did, you would love your nature and her will. Those who love their arts exhaust themselves in working at them unwashed and without food, but you value your own nature less than the turner values the turning heart, or the dancer the dancing art, or the lover of money values his money, or the vainglorious, the vainglorious man his little glory. And such men, when they have an emotional attachment to to a thing choose neither to eat nor to sleep, rather than to perfect the things for which they care. But are the acts which concern society more vile in your eyes and less worthy of your labor? Dang. All right. That's very interesting. A way to... Okay, so that's a good start.
Yeah,
well, I'm just going to say that right now. So what I got out of that is that basically, I think this is one thing to direct himself to. I think this is a thing definitely he was directing toward himself, but it could be also for other people. Because I can almost guarantee you back in that time, not everybody had like bedclothes to even keep warm. So I mean, that like just right there. But I mean, for us, it does make sense. It's like, you know, everything a part of nature has its own place and its own like duties that they go ahead and do about, and that we are the like, or I would say we, but people in general are the ones that either do too much of it or too little. Because he even talked about doing too much, where they would like exhaust themselves on their thing without food or rest, which is once
like
again, you know, a mistake.
Like a certain pixel artist we know.
Yeah, maybe. I mean,
to a degree.
Well, to a degree. But I mean,
I know a lot of artists like that though, where they're so involved in their art that they forget to hydrate or stretch their hands. Like Vixie.
Well, I mean, there's even more than that. It's like they forget to take care of like basic stuff. Right?
Yeah. But like for instance, Vixie went so hard for so many months that like he started getting really bad hand cramps and had to go to the doctor. And the doctor was like, "If you keep this up, you're gonna get carpal tunnel. You need to start stretching your hand and making sure that it's safe.
Just do some rest."
Yeah.
Gosh darn it. Yeah, no, it's very interesting how you describe this, but I think it was more toward people who don't want to do their duty, whatever that maybe is.
I think that is worse than someone who is so passionate that they forget to take care of themselves, in my own opinion. Yes, that is bad. Someone who is...
No, actually, because it's tough to say. It's tough to say because think of it this way. So the person who does too much, and they're actually really good at it, may be worse than the person who's doing nothing. So, for example, and the reason I say this is that the person who's doing nothing has probably been doing nothing for quite some time. But the person who does too much but takes no rest, but eventually can't do anything, you know what they can and cannot do, and because of their own, I guess I don't even know how to describe it. Just their what would you call doing too much without rest?
Overwork?
Well, no, but like why they do it, right?
Well, passion. It would be passion.
Yeah, because of their own passion, they basically destroy whatever duty they could have done. Because in this particular case, say for example, the artist that does too much and like they cannot do it anymore because they get carpal tunnel or something. There was no like surgery to fix that back then. They would just be fucked. And
yeah, well, that's fair.
They would literally damage themselves beyond repair, right? So I think that's almost as bad or worse than the person who's doing nothing.
That's a fair argument.
I would say at least it's equal.
Yeah. No, with that argument, I could definitely say I think it's equal. Because the person who does nothing because they have no passion or they don't know where they want to go in their life.
Or their passion is the bedclothes, as one might say.
Yeah, or their passion is something baser, like lust or comfort.
Yeah, money, right?
Money, you know, the baser passions of human beings. They're definitely just as bad in my opinion. Because they're not creating or contributing anything to their own life.
They could be, right?
They could be.
I only say that from my perspective, it could be just as bad or as worse because we know what the other person could be doing, right? And they just destroy themselves because idiocy in some level.
The way I see it is when you see a person who doesn't have that passion, they don't know. There's legitimately for a lot of people, I should say, not most people, infinite potential there. Like legitimately.
Wow.
This is the way I see it. Again, I'm slightly optimistic about these things, but I see a huge amount of potential in people. Just when it comes to that. Now, of course, that's not for everyone.
You kind of have a point because you could say one is infinitely larger than zero. So
exactly.
Any amount of effort they do is infinitely more potential than what they were doing before. So you could say they have an infinite amount of potential if they do anything.
And the thing is, once once 1 becomes the baseline, it's essentially 0 for them. So again, improving again
Wow.
is an infinite improvement. That's why I say, like, baby steps. Little improvements are far more important than trying to take off more than you can chew. Because if you can make little stable improvements that
A larger cup jar.
a larger cum jar. If you can make
Student.
if you can make small adjustments to your life that are consistent, that is far better than making inconsistent large changes to your life that are positive, because those will fall apart if you lose any small bit of control over it.
Also, Pepsi and Cola are not the same thing. They have different.
They are absolutely
Yeah.
not.
Yeah, they are absolutely not the same. Just throwing it out there, Fractal. You're crazy.
They both taste like shit, but they're absolutely
Alright.
not the same thing.
Have you had a Coke float before? That thing's delicious.
I prefer root beer floats.
Yeah.
And the thing is, I don't even really like those very often, because again, I don't like things that are too sweet. I very rarely eat sweet things. Like, even with chocolate, I prefer like 95% chocolate.
All right, Googie. I'll give you that one. That one's funny. Yeah, don't shave your head just one day. Slowly work your way to becoming bald.
Well, everyone can do that if they give it time.
I mean, yeah, eventually. Let's see. And Fractal, of course, you have if you have a question, go ahead and shoot for it. We'll definitely come. We'll circle back around to it, as one might say.
How easy it is to repel and to wipe away every impression which is troublesome or unsuitable, and immediately to be in all tranquility.
Okay.
Yeah, that's pretty straightforward, I think.
Well, so maybe they'll give us more information, because I guess it depends on. Well, I mean, if you're doing it immediately and you're just like, okay, I'm just going to completely ignore this. I don't think that's.
See, I don't think it's ignoring. I think it's impressions.
Well, it says wipe
right?
away every impression which is troublesome or unsuitable. Oh, well, that also would assume that you know what is supposed to be what is troublesome or unsuitable.
Yeah.
So, for example, let's say the death of the family member. Is that troublesome or unsuitable?
I think this again sort of goes back into the base of Stoicism, control over emotions, where don't let yourself kind of just fall to emotions and be controlled by them.
I mean,
because
yes, of course.
again, that's your impressions, that's your opinions of the world, and if you learn self-control and you learn how to find that tranquility in yourself, you can wipe away those impressions and move forward despite what's happening to you. Anyway,
Continue.
judge every word and deed which are according to nature to be fit for you, and be not diverted by the blame which follows from any people, nor by their words. But if a thing is good to be done or said, do not consider it unworthy of you. For those persons have their peculiar leading principle, and follow their peculiar movement, which things do not you regard. That's a weird wording. Which things do not you regard, but go straight on, following your own nature and the common nature, and the way of both is one. That was definitely some weird wording. But again,
Okay, let me
Latin.
go over that again. So, if you were to deed which are
Judge
according
every
to nature,
word and deed which are according to nature to be fit for you. And be not diverted by the blame which follows from any people, nor by their words. But if a thing is good to be done or said, do not consider it unworthy of you.
Okay, so that part makes 100% sense. There's a lot of people
yeah.
who are going to try to change
Sway-
your
yeah,
actions
sway-
based on your words, or
sway
sway
your actions,
what
yeah.
you're going to be doing, right? And so if you believe that it's good and that's within your nature, you should be doing it anyway. For the persons who have a peculiar leading principle and follow their peculiar movement, which things do you not regard, but go straight on and follow your own nature. Oh, okay. No, that makes sense to me. So, for example, I mean,
Go ahead.
for people with a peculiar leading principle, so like, let's say, trying to give a good example that, like, so let's say a person has a passion for something not what you would consider mainstream. Let's say that's like a weird art or something of that nature.
Let's say live 2D like 5 years ago.
Sure. Yeah, exactly. Right. Oh yeah, or like Kazuna AI, who is like a VTuber way before everybody else, right?
Yeah,
And that was your peculiar principle and follow, and that was your nature. You should be doing it. You should just go straight for it. So the people, he's even saying for people who have a nature or a goal that is odd, you should still be going for it as long as it's within your nature.
And you think it's good to follow. Now, of course, again, the golden mean, we should keep that in mind. It doesn't mean just go forward blindly, of course.
Now, I do want to mention that I'm not sure the golden mean is actually a particular principle of Stoicism. I don't actually think they actually mention that in Stoicism.
No, I don't.
It's something
think
that
they do,
I'm bringing
but
from outside from other Greek philosophers.
I think it's also. I still think it's also important, and that's why I say, balance in all things in your actions. Like, okay, yeah, go straight on, follow your principles. But even Aurelius says in the book, like, don't be so hard-headed in your principles and nature to not be open to change at some point. Because if somebody has a good argument,
they literally talked about it just a step before. The person who does everything but without rest. That could also fall right into it. There's a golden mean of how much you should be doing, even if it is your principle and your nature, right? And you really have that passion. Also, hello, Rofo.
There's a cute Rofo in chat. Cute Rofo.
Yeah, Rofo's pretty cute.
I go through the.
Have you seen Rofo's dog boy? Very cute.
I have not.
Good boy.
I go through the things which happen according to nature until I shall fall and rest, breathing out my breath into that element out of which I daily draw it in, and falling upon that earth out of which my father collected the seed, and my mother the blood, and my nurse the milk, out of which during so many years I have been supplied with food and drink, which bears me when I tread on it, and abuse it for so many purposes.
I mean, yeah, that makes sense. Like, you're just going back to nature, right?
Another
that's another whole entire death thing. It's like there's you're of what nature give to you, you're going to give back. Don't worry.
You say that men cannot admire the sharpness of your wits. Be it so. But there are many other things of which you cannot say that you are not formed for them by nature. Show these qualities, when which are all together in your power: sincerity, gravity, endurance of labor, aversion to pleasure, contentment with your position and with few things, benevolence, portion, thank you. Contentment with your portion and with very few things, benevolence, frankness, no love of superfluity, freedom from trifling, magnanimity. That's always a bitch of a word.
Yeah, it is. It's a good word. It's a good word.
Yeah. Do you not see how many qualities you are immediately able to exhibit, for which you do not have the excuse of natural incapacity and unfitness, and yet you still remain voluntarily below the mark? Or are you compelled, through being defectively furnished by nature, to murmur, and to be stingy, and to flatter, and to find fault with your poor body, and to try to please men, and to make great display, and to be so restless in your mind? No, by the gods, but you might have been delivered from these things long ago. Only if in truth you can be charged with being rather slow and dull of comprehension, you must exert yourself about this also, not neglecting it, nor yet taking pleasure in your dullness.
Actually, that is actually a really good one. So, I'm sorry if you have particular words, but from what I see about this, so it doesn't necessarily have to be sharpness of wits. That's just something that I think he's using an example. Yeah. So sharpness of wits, you could say, is some people find difficulty being humorous, right? So sharpness of wits, we'll just say that, right? He says, all right, cool, fine. Not everybody can have the sharpness of wits, but of course there are so many other things that you can work on and that you can exhibit, which people will, I guess, not take pleasure from, but they'll see the good qualities of you, right? There's other things that you can work on yourself that you can also exhibit to basically say, hey, I'm good. It doesn't necessarily have to be humor. I think that's actually really important, right? And then he says, oh, I mean, are you literally, born that you have to be greedy? Do you have to do these things? No, you can totally work on these things. You can totally make yourself better. Like you can do these things to show that you're good. You don't have to do this. I think that's really interesting. I think that's a good thought. And I mean, the thing is, you can also switch out for another thing. So, for example, let's say like, oh, I have a really tough time with
Socialization,
jealousy, or social, anxiety, whatever you want to do, right? You can say, well, you're not like, all right, cool, you have that problem, but there's other things you can work on if you really do have that problem. That will
even
make you
here
better.
he's saying, like, you may not be perfect in it. At least this is what I'm taking away. You may not be perfect in it, but you can still work on your quote-unquote sharpness of wit. That is, you must exert yourself about this also, not neglecting it, nor yet taking pleasure in your dullness.
I would say using it as an excuse to not work on it.
Exactly.
Right.
Which is something you see a lot in people that have anxiety, and I know how hard it is. I do. It's not as easy as just saying, do it. But when you have something like a social anxiety or just agoraphobia, not facing it will only make it worse. Making excuses for yourself will only make it worse. And that goes for a lot of things in life. Not taking the time to work on it and not taking the time to improve on it will only worsen the situation. So yeah, overall good advice.
No. Yeah, no, I think I actually like that one. That was a good one. All right. One man, when he has done his service to another, is ready to set down to his account as a favor conferred. Another is not ready to do this, but still in his own mind he thinks of the man as his debtor, and he knows that he has what he has done. A third, in a manner, does not even know what he has done, but he is like a vine which has produced grapes, and seeks nothing more after it has once produced its proper fruit. As a horse when he has run, a dog when he has tackled the game, a bee when it has made the honey, so a man when he has done a good act does not call out for others to come and see what he does, but he goes on to another act, as a vine goes on to produce again the grapes in season.
I want to say something quick. That's actually something in the Bible, just an interesting little thing, where I don't know the exact verse. It's not like I study the Bible. I've never
read the Bible.
I've studied a lot.
Well, I mean, I've read parts of it because
I've studied a lot of different religious texts and stuff, and the Bible essentially says in multiple points, like, hey, dude, if you're gonna do a good act, do it because you want to do a good act. Don't do it for like don't give $1 million to charity and like be like, hey, look at me, I'm amazing. Like, no. Of course, in today's day and age, it's a little bit different. If you're running a charity thing, raising money for charity, it's a little bit different. You're gonna want to bring eyes to that, but don't bring eyes to you. Bring eyes to the charity. You know.
Yeah, for sure. I do think that's rather interesting, but I shall continue because we may get more context.
Yeah, continue.
Let's see here. Must a man then, in a sense, act thus without observing it? Yes. But this very thing is necessary, the observation of what a man is doing, for it may be said it is a characteristic of the social animal to perceive that he is working in a social manner, and indeed to wish that his social partner also should perceive it. It is true what you say, but you do not properly understand what is now said, and for this reason you'll become one of those whom I spoke before, for even they are misled by a certain show of reason. But if you will choose to understand the meaning of what is said, do not fear that for this reason you will omit any social act. Okay, I'll continue on. So we were talking about before where there's a person. So he's basically breaking down. Okay, so there's a person, you do a good act. One of these men, right? So he's breaking down multiple men. Another says he's immediately going to say, "You owe me a favor," right? In some way. That could be social, money, whatever it is. Then there's another one who says he doesn't, but he actually still does. He says, another is not ready to do this, but still in his own mind, he thinks the man as his debtor, as in he owes him a debt, right? And he knows what he has done. So he says he doesn't, but he believes that he does. And he's acting as it, like, right? And then the third one does, that what you're supposed to be doing, which is, you do the good act and you just keep going forward and you never actually ask for anything in return, which is really interesting. But then he also talks about how even the last people can be, I guess, they can fall from what they were doing before, because you said, even if you know what this is and you understand it, you will also become one of those whom I spoke before. I think that's really interesting. But my question is this. Let's say what you're
listening.
doing is your work, right? Like, this
Mhm.
is how you feed yourself. This is like what you're doing. Maybe it's even, your duty in this particular sense for Marcus Aurelius. How could you then actually enact this, right? You can't do your work for nothing, right?
Yeah, I mean, well, I think work and just simple good deeds they're not completely separate, but they're not completely together as well. Like, you can be good at your work, be somebody who is seen as just in your work. Wow, I just realized how long this next one is. Sorry. Let me put a pin on that. So you can be seen as good at your work, professional, a kind person, without compromising on feeding yourself. I mean, let's take, I don't know, any artist that has ever been called like, hey, they work fast, they work well, they can be lenient in certain situations if something comes up, like they're not a total dickhole about it, they understand,
Okay.
etc., etc. Like, that's where good deed comes in. For instance, I'm only using this as an example.
Okay.
And I don't want anyone like taking this out of context or thinking of this as like I'm bragging or whatever. Because this is just something that happened to me. I have an editor, right?
Okay.
So our last video, the Meme Dub 5, took almost a year to finish. For various reasons, I swear it was cursed, but we won't go into that. But my editor fell onto some hard times, and a couple times I was like, dude, don't worry about the video, just focus on your shit. And then he told me about a situation he was in right now where he was like, yeah, I don't know how I even managed to do this, but I overdrew my bank account, and now I have to like start rushing on commissions. And I was like, all right, this is a one-time thing. Make sure you don't overdraw your bank account again. Learn from this mistake. Here's $60. Take care of yourself. Like, you can still be kind without compromising on your way of work, without compromising on your food and your rent or whatever other necessities you need, in my opinion. Also on Kyork says, I personally think it's still 100% better to have someone do a good deed and show off than not doing it. I don't disagree with that. But
see that. That's difficult to say, right?
But I think it's still a bad thing to do. Because at the end of the day, what's the word? It encourages that kind of behavior, which is not great in my opinion. Like, if you do a good deed, it's not like a video game like in Zelda where, you do a good deed and you expect a reward, right? Generally speaking, you shouldn't expect anything when you do something good. Now, yes, you'll come into good social standing. That's just a natural result if people find out about it. But, good deeds can be rewarded, but I don't think they should be rewarded. I don't think that's a necessary thing, personally.
It's for me, it's tough to say because like this. You could say in that moment when that person does a good, we ever say they do the 100% good deed, right?
Yep.
And then show off for it, right? You could say in that one particular moment, sure, I would still say that the outcome is better. But let me also give you another example because they were talking about it just here. Mm-hmm. When you actually perceive that you're a social animal and that it would be your social partner's duty to observe what you're doing. That's one of the things he was literally just talking about. If somebody sees you doing the good deed and then showing off, that could lead other people for doing the exact same thing with even less of a good reason, right? And you're going to have a worse and worse outcome. So, like, it's tough to say that, as I said before, in that moment, sure, you could say, hey, I think it's a better outcome. But what about in, the next person that does it? Or the other people who observe you? Will the outcome just be as good as then? Well, if you continue to do it. that's why I'm saying it's difficult to say. That's also one of the reasons why I think
Like I said,
charity
it
is kind of a
encourages-
joke these days, right?
Yep.
Because you had the initial charity, great idea. We see charity these days, it's pretty much a tax loophole for people who have a lot of money.
Even on top of that, a lot of charities these days are really shady.
Non-profits, right?
Well,
non-profits.
Like a lot of non-profit charities are really shady. Like for instance,
Super shady, yeah.
The biggest autism foundation that America has ever seen, Autism Speaks, super shady. Like I watched a whole like really well sourced video on it and read through the sources, and it was just like, wow, that's not good. There's just a lot of charities don't actually do a lot of good things, and so if you do feel like you want to give to charity, then at least make sure you do plenty of research on that charity before you actually.
Yeah,
in
we've
my
mentioned
opinion,
it before.
do that. But yeah.
I was just using charity as an example of what I was describing, where somebody does the thing and you could say initially it was good, but the more and more you do it, because you show it off and people are observing you, it changes, or it can change, right? And that's why it's very difficult for me to say whether it would be good or bad, because if you go back to the initial person, you could still say, I still think it was a better outcome. But what has it really turned into?
York. We're not saying that the act of rewarding someone because they do charity is wrong. No. What we're saying is somebody who goes around doing charity for the sake of looking good,
as you described, since you said showing off,
can cause disastrous results. As again, it encourages that behavior, and the result of doing that sort of behavior is very unstable.
could be bad.
It could be very.
And that's
bad.
why I'm saying it's very difficult for me to say whether or not that person who did the good deed and is showing off is actually doing anything good in the end. It's difficult for me to say that. That was my thing, and I would just give it an example of what it could turn into, or at least what I believe.
Yeah, we're not
it could
saying
turn
that
into.
like rewarding someone who does a good deed is bad. Absolutely not.
Okay, let's see here. I shall continue though. Let's see here. So I'll do 7, and then I'll have you do 8 because 8 is gigantic. A prayer of the Athenians. Rain, rain, O dear Zeus, down on the plowed fields of the Athenians and on the plains. In truth, we ought not to pray at all, or we ought to pray in the simple and noble fashion. Okay. I don't know. There's not much context for that.
I think, at least some. One sec. Yeah, I mean, I'm not saying they shouldn't be allowed to. I'm just saying, okay, York, this is the last I'm going to say on this. People who do things like that and then brag about it.
Why did they do that in the first place?
Yeah, generally they don't have good motives in the first place.
Yeah,
There's usually a certain egalitarian entitlement to it that.
Because my question is, did you really spend a year or 3 of your life to go and then brag about it after? What was your real reasoning then? What were you really doing? What, like, in your mind?
And people who have that kind of mindset generally don't get good results in that kind of situation because they don't have that
I would really
passion.
question whether or not they did it for
whether they
actual
even got
good
results.
reasons.
Because again, generally you see that at the end of the day, when people do something for that reason, for the bragging rights, they don't get good results, and often they do horrible things. I'm not saying they shouldn't be allowed to brag
themselves, but
well,
I question the person who would literally do that for whatever number of years to end it in something so petty as in like this is the reward you were going for to brag about it. Like that's what you were aiming for? It
again,
seems
that's
so
the
small
thing,
for me.
York. Okay, we were just talking earlier about passion, right? Having a passion for something, a nature. If their nature is being vain and doing this for the sake of bragging, of, looking good, then you can probably say with almost no doubt that they don't actually care about helping people. And that's where the questions come in. That's where the issue comes in. Because if they don't actually care about helping people, how much did they actually help anyone in the first place? That's the point here.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, Wolf, good example. YouTubers who film themselves giving homeless people money, or if they go to another country for aid, but then just brag about how good a person they are. Yeah.
Can you say, are you actually doing anything good?
And we've seen many times YouTubers that have done that get exposed for actually doing horrible, horrible things.
Yeah, it's just like, I'm not saying
it's always like
actions,
that.
right? I'm talking about the actual person and the reasons behind it, which is because this is what this is all about. This is about, an individual, their reasoning, their goals, or whatnot. So we're not talking about specifically the acts. We're talking about the actual person. And so whether or not they actually did good in the end, I'm still going to have questions about why they did it in the first place. Can I actually say, they spent $1 million to do this, but why did they spend $1 million? If it was just a brag, then why should I care about it? So that's why I'm still questioning it, whether or not the actions did any good.
And when you have to question that, it questions the results as well.
Yeah, no, exactly. Yeah,
just
it definitely
like
does.
Autism Speaks, who constantly goes on about like how they're the biggest supporters of autism, but it actually turns out they were doing horrible, horrible things to autistic kids around the world. So, yeah.
Are you ready for your super long one?
But yeah, moving on. That's the last I'm going to say on that, York.
If you want to talk about it more, I would take it to the Discord.
Yeah, we can talk about it more in like DMs or something. But for now, just think on what we've all had to say and then get back to me. Just as we must understand when it is said that Asclepius, the god of medicine, prescribed to this man horse exercise, or bathing in cold water, or going without shoes, so we must understand it when it is said that the nature of the universe prescribed to this man disease, or mutilation, or loss, or anything else of the kind. For in the first case, prescribed means something like this. He prescribed this for this man as a thing adapted to procure health. In the second case, it means that which happened to or suits every man is fixed in a manner for him suitably to his destiny. For this is what we mean when we say that things are suitable to us. As the workmen say of squared stones in walls or the pyramids, that they are suitable, when they fit them to one another in some kind of connection. Sorry, I need some water. 1 second. For there is altogether one fitness, one harmony. And as the universe is made up out of all bodies to be such a body as it is, so out of all existing causes, necessity, destiny, is made up to be such a cause as it is. And even those who are completely ignorant understand what I mean, for they say necessity or destiny. For they say, it brought this to such a person. This then was brought, and this was prescribed to him. Let us then receive these things, as well as those which Asclepius prescribes. Fucking Latin names.
Asclepius?
Many, I think it's Asclepius, yeah. Many, as a matter of course, even among his prescriptions, are disagreeable, but we accept them in the hope of health. Let the perfecting and accomplishment of the things which the common nature judges to be good be judged by you to be the same kind as your health. Excuse me. And so accept everything which happens, even if it seems disagreeable, because it leads to this, to the health of the universe and to the prosperity and happiness of Zeus. For he would not have brought on any man what he has brought, if it were not useful for the whole.
So I want to pause real quick.
Pause.
This seems like a very biblical thing. It's like, God will never give you any trial that you cannot handle, right? Or that kind of situation. This is what this is seeming like to me.
Yeah, I'm thinking again, because it's never explicitly stated. Like, he never explicitly states. In fact, he explicitly states maybe the gods are real, maybe they're not. Like at a couple points.
Actually, there was multiple points where it's like, if there's no gods and we just go back to a state of matter, then don't worry about it. And if there are gods and we go to another plane, well, you don't have to worry about it then either.
Yeah, because like right now that doesn't matter to us. So I think a big thing to take away from this so far is essentially like, yeah, bad shit happens, and it's a sign to us.
It's not even necessarily bad shit.
Well, bad and good
it's just
shit,
disagreeable.
Yeah, like disagreeable things happen, good things happen. It's a part of your life. Accept it. Accept it, and just kind of, like he said before, be content with your portion in the universe.
I mean, it also says that, that he was talking about harmony, right? That by accepting it and doing the things and just like moving forward, that is also a part of harmony, and that's like the best outcome that you could get. It's kind of weird. I guess it depends on like, since I think he's specifically talking about things that come from nature. So, could be bad, could be good, whatever it is. I know, I think it's kind of interesting.
Neither does the nature of anything, whatever it may be, cause anything which is not suitable to that which is directed by it. For two reasons, then, it is right to be content with that which happens to you. The one, because it was done for you and prescribed for you, and in a manner had reference to you, originally from the most ancient causes spun with your destiny. And the other, because even that which comes individually to every man is to the power which administers the universe a cause of happiness and perfection. Indeed, even of its very continuance. For the integrity of the whole is mutilated. If you cut off anything, whatever, from the conjunction and the continuity, words.
Yeah, continuity.
Either of the parts or of the causes. And you do cut off, as far as it is in your power, when you are dissatisfied, and in a manner try to put anything out of the way.
I mean, that's kind of an interesting way to put it. Basically, people who try to... I think one of the easiest ways you could describe this is the people who try to, like, cheat death. Or they want to be immortal, right? And they go through great lengths and they do all these things. And how many stories... Even at this point during Marcus Aurelius' time, how many stories of like people shooting for immortality and them causing horrible like things to happen has it happened like how many times, right? I think that would be one of the easy examples I could bring.
All right. I don't have much to say.
What were your thoughts on it?
Well, I don't have much to say because again, I see this as a pretty simple concept that is described in a very wordy but necessarily wordy way, where the world is filled with things that humans will find disagreeable and sometimes horrible. Sometimes horrible. And the fact of the matter is we as humans don't really have control over this. Maybe the gods or destiny or chaos have control over that. Whatever it is has control over that. And it is part of the universe. It is part of nature. And there's nothing we can do about it. So the best thing we can do is accept, move on, and prepare for the next time it happens. And again, he even says here, let's see. Because even that which comes individually to every man is to the power which administers the universe a cause of happiness and perfection. Even if something horrible happens to you, there is something to be gained by that.
Well, you could say that if the person behind you or like the next generation, they could learn from those mistakes or the things that happened, and they could do better.
Like just taking me as an example, I would not
I just had kind of like a string of thoughts. So let's say bad things happen, and I think almost everyone would agree that people learn from mistakes more from failure than they do of, say, success. And so what if you actually need to have a certain level of failure in your life or just in general, because this could also be the society, for it to be healthy, because it needs to continue to learn and adapt to what's happening. Because let's say society doesn't, they would fail, right? I think that's actually very interesting.
As individuals, we've talked about this before, that humans are built for failure to some degree.
To some degree, yeah.
That that we learn and adapt from failure, and we grow from failure. We don't grow very much from our successes. Never, almost never, right? Success
Not
is
as
the
much.
goalpost. Not nearly as much, yeah. Failure is the thing that allows us to learn and become better. And again, sometimes it's not failure. Or sometimes it's failure that is completely out of your control. Absolutely.
That's true. Yeah. Could be 100%.
Again, horrible things happen to people every day. But it is within your power to learn from this. There's almost always something to be learned from it.
I just think it's kind of that concept's a little interesting.
Again, for me, it goes back into there are things within your power and things without your power, right? Things in your life that you have control over. The things you don't have control over, you can't constantly worry about. Whether it be other people and what they think of you, or a tornado that could come at any time. Prepare for it, but don't worry. Don't go crazy over it.
That also does make me wonder, because we are always talking, because he does talk about things that are within or without your power. So, for example, the person who is happening to right now, let's say a bad thing is happening to them, and is completely without the power. That does not mean that, say, the generation or the person who is behind them, that won't be in their power. They could be learning from what's happening to them because, they have more time or whatever it's going to be, right? So it's kind of I think it's kind of interesting. So it's just, I'm just like in my thoughts thinking about things.
No, for sure. Again, this goes back to that idea that that helped me a lot, where you put your own life into order, because you can't order other people. You cannot.
No, you can't.
It is impossible. Like, you can give people tools. You can give people. You can bring a horse to water. You can try
to give them the tools.
Yeah.
Not even that will work.
Yeah. Well, no, you can give them the tools, but they have. They might just fucking throw them in the river, right? Like, big fuck you, right? Like, that's a thing that can and has happened many times.
It happens more often than the way where they'll say, "Oh, these are useful." Almost never. Almost never. I've seen it 1,000 times before. Every single time, this is what happens. You'll try to give somebody advice, and then they'll completely ignore it. And the only time that they'll be like, "Oh, this advice is really useful," is when they ignore what happened. It happens to them, and they say, "Oh, these things were actually useful." They almost like 99.9% times they'll never take your advice, and
even
only
Medic,
will take your advice after they get.
Yeah, even Medic publicly was like, "Yeah, I never should have joined the army. You were right."
Never. Of course, we were trying to give you that advice, but you will not take it until you experience it.
Honestly, he's a better person for it. He realized his mistake. He's growing.
Sure.
Now, I definitely don't think he should have joined the army, but at the very least, there's something to be taken away from this horrible, horrible choice.
Yeah. Man, that was so dumb of them. I told him, like, don't do it. You're so dumb. Do it.
We both were like, don't do it.
All right, I shall continue.
Especially if you're doing it to try to become part of something bigger than yourself. You will be disappointed.
You will be very disappointed.
Very disappointed.
All right. Excuse me. Do not be disgusted, discouraged, or dissatisfied. If you do not succeed in doing everything...
This is exactly what we were talking about.
If you do not succeed in doing everything according to right principles, rather when you have failed, return back again, and be content if the greater part of what you do is consistent with man's nature, and love this to which you return. Do not return to philosophy as she were a master, but act like those who have sore eyes and apply a bit of sponge and egg, or as another applies a plaster or drenching with water. For thus you will not fail to obey reason, and you will respond, and you will respond in it.
Repose.
Oh, repose in it. Repose. Oh, rest in it. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And remember that philosophy requires only things which your nature requires, but you would have something else which is not according to nature. It may be objected, why what is more agreeable than this, which I am doing, but is not this the very reason why pleasure deceives us? And consider in magnanimity, freedom, simplicity, equanimity?
Equanimity? Equanimity. Equanimity? I
Can you
think.
look that up? I don't know what that means
I'm gonna
exactly.
look that up.
Equanimity, piety are not more agreeable.
I got it. The quality
Okay,
of
what
being
is it?
calm and even-tempered, of composure, evenness of
Oh, okay.
mind or temper,
Okay.
firmness.
So consider magnanimity, freedom, simplicity, equanimity, piety are not more agreeable. For what is more agreeable than wisdom itself? When you think of the security and the happy course of all things which depend on the faculty of understanding and knowledge. Interesting.
Yeah, I do think that's kind of like, to some degree, what we were talking about before and what we were going on about. It connects to the last one quite well. Soyam says, hi, Lofam.
Oh, hello. So I am.
It goes into the point, like, don't, if you fail once, don't just give up. Don't be angry. Don't, like, yes, it can be frustrating, but don't just throw it all away, right? There's something to be learned there. There is wisdom and knowledge to be gained. So gain it, move forward, and try a different tactic.
So it also says, rather, when you have failed, return back again and be content if the greater part of what you do is consistent with man's nature.
Mm-hmm.
So basically, your nature. Interesting. Okay, I think I'm going to do 10.
Yeah, and then I'll do
Yeah.
11.
Yeah, okay. Then we'll go back to, yeah, okay. Things are in such a kind of envelopment that they have seemed to philosophers, not a few nor those common philosophers, altogether unintelligible. Indeed, they even seem difficult to understand the Stoics themselves. I mean, it's kind of funny. And all our assent is changeable, for where is the man who never changes? Carry your thoughts then to the objects themselves, and consider how short-lived they are and worthless, and that they may be in the possession of a filthy wretch, or a whore, or a robber. Then turn to the morals of those who live with you, and it is hardly possible to endure even the most agreeable of them. To say nothing of a man being hardly able to endure himself. In such darkness, then, and dirt, and in so constant a flux both of substance and of time, and of motion, and of the things moved, what there is worth being highly prized, or even an object of serious pursuit, I cannot imagine. But on the contrary, it is a man's duty to comfort himself and to wait for the natural dissolution, and not to be vexed at the delay, but to rest in these principles only. First, that nothing will happen to me which is not comfortable to the nature of the universe, and second, that it is in my power never to act contrary to my God and inner daemon, for there is no man who will compel me to this.
Again, just for those who are new, daemon is not an actual daemon. It is the voice within, the conscience, the soul.
All right, Fracture, you said you had a question. I think it's actually really interesting, because basically what he's saying is that, like, nature is going to happen, so you don't have to worry about that. And two, you have, I guess, freedom? Because he basically says, that it is in my power to never act contrary to my God or inner daemon, for there is no man who will compel me to this. You always have freedom. You always have your will.
Okay, I don't want to go too deep into this, but I have a scenario. A human is trying really hard to make something happen, but there is a wall. This person keeps trying to find a way around or break this wall without rest. It's the goal, passion. This wall is not the design of the person. How would this human put this text to use to think better?
Okay, so it's going to take me a second. Let me think about this. So obviously there's a wall, like there's something in the way of them getting to their passion, whatever it is, right? I would say this. There are a couple of ways that I think about using this text is that, okay, just in the last thing, change is always going to happen. Like for what man is there, without change, right? Just because it's your passion right now does not mean it's always going to be your passion. You could be looking elsewhere to do something that could be just almost as passionate, or you find it could be at your actual true passion, since you can change, instead of just hitting this wall. There are ways that you can do this. You don't have to always just do this one thing. And the thing is, it could be just based on time. Maybe that wall, whatever you're talking about, is something that will change in the future in itself. Maybe you'll be able to do that.
Maybe it'll
but
just
maybe
degrade
not
over
right
time.
now. It's difficult to say. It's difficult for me to say, hey, don't obviously shoot for your passion. But if it is so impossible, you could be doing yourself a disfavor to, once again, the golden mean. If you just can't do it because there's this wall, perhaps you should look elsewhere to doing things.
Yeah, that's basically what I was going to say once I read it out. Like, ponder on the wall. Ponder on it and ask yourself, have I been doing this wrong?
Perhaps you're just going about it wrong.
Yeah, have I been doing the same thing over and over? Is there some other way that I can get around this wall? Maybe that'll take some extra time. Maybe you'll have to walk, like, metaphorically speaking, maybe you'll have to walk miles to get around the wall. Which just means, outside of the metaphor, that just means, again, maybe you have to try different avenues until you can find a new way through. But
also have a good lurk, Rofo.
yes, have a good lurk, Rofo. But at the end of the day,
I don't know if you're lurking or if you're just like doing the lurk to look cute, but I mean, whatever.
Cute little trash goblin.
Exactly.
Cute little trash goblin. I'm a little trash goblin, and I'm lurking on your stream. But back to what I was saying. No wall is ever permanent.
I mean, that's true. As well,
Metaphorically and literally. Like, no wall is ever permanent. So, you might not be able to find a way around it, or under it, or through it right now.
Yeah, but that doesn't mean it's always going to be the situation.
Yeah, that's not necessarily always going to be the situation. And if this metaphor is about Corona, for instance, Corona won't always be here. There will be some lasting effects. I'm just...
It's just funny because you just, like, when you said that, it just made me think of the beer. I'm like, Corona, it's just a beer. I got you, though.
Corona... You totally fucked up my flow. Thank you.
I'm sorry. I guess it really depends on you, Fracta. Like, I don't know the exact details or what exactly is going on, but I would say really give it some thought. Really look around in your situation, whatever that is, and see what it is you could do. And that's the best I can give you without having a lot more information, which probably we should not share on Twitch or stream.
I mean,
that's what I would say.
I know what it is, but I'm not going to share it on Twitch and stream. So, obviously, that would be rude.
Oh, I mean, yes, of course.
My turn?
I don't know.
Yeah, 11. We're on 11, right?
Oh, yeah. No, yeah. I had finished it. Yeah, we were on 11. And yeah, Fracta, once again, just kind of like Karik, if you want to talk about this more, there's always Discord. You can always hit me up in DM. I'm not exactly sure what the situation is, but I mean, obviously, I'll try to help if I can.
All right, continuing. About what? Water.
Hello, baby.
All right. About what am I now employing my own soul? On every occasion I must ask myself this question, and inquire, what have I now in this part of me, which they call the ruling principle? And whose soul have I now? That of a child, a young man, a feeble woman, a tyrant, or of a domestic animal, wild beast? I think that's always a good question. Who am I?
Yeah, no, that's just asking who you are, really, honestly.
It is always good to be asking yourself questions about yourself, because 90% of the time you will get an answer. You may not like the answer, but you will get an answer. And from that answer, change can be brought forth. Generally, yes. Good change.
Fresh.
Well, rather,
I would say more informed change.
Good change can be brought forth, but that's not always the case.
Yeah, no, you'll generally not get great results if not asking these questions.
Yeah. And if some people who do ask these questions don't like the answers, and they will go the opposite direction. Like, take for instance, a good psychologist, they're rare these days, but a good psychologist looking at someone and saying, I think you're focusing on the wrong things. What about this? And then that person, was like, oh no, that's not the problem. That's never been the problem. Just immediately shutting that down. If you ask yourself these questions and you really don't like the answer, and you're shutting yourself down, it's something to be aware of. We may learn, even from this, what kind of things appear good to the many. For if any man should conceive certain things as being truly good, such as prudence, temperance, justice, fortitude, he would not, after having first conceived these, endure to listen to anything which should not be in harmony with what is truly good. One sec. More water. But if a man who first conceived as... But if a man has first conceived as good... That's a weird wording. But if a man has first conceived as good, the things which appear to the many to be good, he will listen and readily receive as very applicable that which was said by the comic writer. That's a weird way to put it too. Thus, even the many perceive the difference. For were it not so, this saying would not offend and would not be rejected in the first case. While we receive it, when it is said of wealth, and of the means which further luxury and fame, as said fitly and wittily. Go on then and ask if we should value and think those things to be good, to which after their first conception in the mind, the words of the comic writer might be aptly applied, that he who has them, through pure abundance, has not a place in which to relieve himself. Thoughts?
Okay, so I want to make sure that I'm understanding this correctly.
Yeah, there was a lot of weird wording there. It kind of got me too.
So you're saying that the person who conceives of what is really good, such as prudence, temperance, justice, and fortitude, then he would not listen to anything that would not be good. And he gives an examples of what the general public are saying is good, such as, wealth, fame, all that kind of stuff, right? Reputation. I mean, is that basically what it is saying? So like, hey, you need to have these ideas. And if you don't have these ideas, then the ideas of the public will sway you.
I think
and you'll be readily acceptable to them.
I think I have an applicable example. Okay. So.
Oh wait, no, I think I have a great example too.
I'll do mine quick. So.
Yeah, since you said something.
A friend of a friend, we'll say, Anon, right? Anon really wants to stream. He thinks that's very important. He sees it. He sees how great it is. He sees how valued it is by society, at least in today's day and age during Corona, right? And he thinks that's the best path, right? But he's not seeing it with clear eyes. Right, Anon is seeing it through rose-tinted glasses, as it were. He's seeing what society tells him to see. But if, for instance, he were a little bit more stable and defined in his own principles, in justice, fortitude, his own ideas, he might realize that it should just be a hobby for him rather than his go-to to make money or a living. I think that's a good example, because
my example is actually not too far off from what you said. So I was gonna say.
I'll be right back.
I hear a beeping.
Yeah, I think someone's trying to steal a fucking car. I'll be right back.
Okay. What do you guys think? Should we do a prediction? Is the car being stolen? Is it not being stolen? I'll actually wait until Nev gets back to say my example.
No, some lady just set her own fucking car alarm off. That feel one. I wouldn't know though. I've never had a car. Okay, I'm back.
No, it's stolen. All right, so my example was actually going to be very similar to what you were describing in a way. So I would say that you're a young adult going up,
Okay.
and you have a couple things to look to. So, for example, obviously a purpose. I think purpose is something that's really important in people's lives. It's been talked about in meditations on multiple occasions.
Okay.
So I'm not going to just rehash that.
Purpose is the spark that lights a fire under your ass.
Sure. But what I'm saying is that the young adult has, I guess, choices of like what direction they'd be going to. And then if I'm to be taking this, an example would be like, they listen to what the masses say that should be good. I think an example that's really easy for us is that a lot of people are told, go to college, get a job, and then do whatever you want after, right? Where that is not, and it has not been working for many people. I mean, we can see this really easily that a lot of people are coming out with, statistically speaking, coming out with huge amounts of debt. They don't get the job that they went into school for, and they're just doing other things, and their life has been burdened with this debt because
for a lot of people. For a lot of people, they realize that like a lot of companies aren't even hiring their speciality anymore because the companies are realizing that those degrees aren't really worth what they used to be. Like,
or that you need experience on the top of anyway in the first place on top of your degree. So I think I think that would be an easy example, right? Of saying that just listening to what society or the greater public is saying might not come out, because you could say if I just listened to my principles of doing whatever I wanted to do, I could be like, even if I didn't have a better situation, I at least was doing something that I wanted to do based on my own thing. Even if I didn't get a better result, I could at least have that. Which would make you happier, right? Which I guess that in itself would mean a better result. That was going to be my example.
Yeah. No, that's a good example. It's very similar. But no.
I'm going to go to the bathroom real quick, by the way.
Actually, I think I got a plort too. So we'll take a plort break.
Hey,
everyone go plort. We'll give you like
go plort.
2-3 minutes. Go take a big fat shit.
What?
I told them to go take a big fat shit. Big,
don't listen.
Fat, stinky shit. Your friendly local voice actress returns. Hello, everyone. Chat, I'm talking to you. I will fight you. Watch me. One sec. Okay. Siege, you're the dum-dum, just so you know. Alright. Let's get a little stretch in. Everyone stretch on stream. Oh fuck, I have a voice line. You know? Siege, I'm gonna veto this. Vetoed! Have your points back, Siege. There, it's been vetoed. That just means I win. Fuck you. Big dum-dum. Oh, God. Are there streamers that unironically say that? I don't say that. I'm not some bitch that would say something like that. So uncouth. Come on now. I know better.
I summon thee, blue eyes white bitch!
I'm not a bitch! Also, I don't have blue eyes. I am white, though. Mostly.
Alright. So are we back?
I love how you're just like, wait. You're not just like, wait, what do you mean mostly? I was expecting you to bite that bait.
What? I don't give a shit.
Fuck you. Take the bait, damn it.
No.
Take the bait.
I really don't care. I could really care less what people are or what their ethnicity is. Because they're ideas that matter to me.
Getting nay. That's so cringe.
What's an A-nay?
It's a
Actually,
shitty
yeah,
dance.
Gooey's got it. Half white, half cat. Got him.
Motherfucker.
Hey, all right, that was a good one. I'll take it.
No,
That's mine
because
now.
I was gonna be like, yeah, I have freckles, so I'm only a little bit white. That's how that works, right?
No,
I'm not
it makes you more
technically
white,
wrong.
right? Because you're like, you could be Irish and they're like super white.
Yeah, but I'm not technically wrong, because there are little dark patches on my skin.
Sure, all right, whatever. It matters not to me.
You know what matters not to me? Your ideas. You're a bad person no matter what. All people are bad.
Well, I'm sorry
Humanity
for
is
being here.
evil.
I shall leave.
No, I'm saying the you in general. You are a human, therefore you are evil. We will purge you, you scum. Wait, I'm not an alien.
Sure. Yeah, I think you are actually.
Lofam's an AI and I'm an alien.
And we're gonna teach you humanity.
Actually, no,
Heck yeah.
that reminds. So those of you here that don't know, I have a sister named AV, and she helped you write some of the early silly prologue stuff to the Rusted Boar. There was a story at one point where somebody had started keeping a pet rock from some planet that we had like landed on, and
Okay.
after that, just weird shit started to happen. Like at one point, we found a bunch of all the girls' panties just like wadded up and stuffed in one of the pipes, as if a rat had taken them for a nest. And nobody could figure out who was doing it, but like a bunch of people, except for me, swore
ravioli.
that the rock would move sometimes when they weren't looking at it. So it was like this whole like, is it an alien or is somebody just fucking with everyone situation? It was just a silly situation. Loved that. Very fun.
See.
Actually, I think one of the we had a violence report of Emmy like screaming about some fucking old VHS tapes that she lost, like a huge collection, and getting drunk and trying to assault a bunch of people. I think that's actually my background on Twitch. Like on the main Twitch page. Yeah, that official report, incident report is my background on Twitch.
Interesting.
Mm-hmm. I don't have it anymore though. I lost it in the Great Purge of 2020. Yeah. There were so many screenshots we
where
lost.
were we? I think we're on 12?
Yeah, let me open. Yes, we're on 12.
Excuse me. Yes.
Pog, there's still a few left. Anyway, let's move on.
What do you mean there's a few left?
A few of the old bits I was talking about. Just
I
little
see.
short story things, like joke things. Like at one point, art.
Wait, was
Like
I
at one-
reading or were you reading? I'm confused. I think you were reading,
I
right?
was reading.
We're on 12?
At one point, our mechanic had, Emmy had installed a dildo into her pilot chair. It was just a whole meme thing. So just silly, stupid stories about the Rusted Boar. Anyway, moving on.
Is that her joystick?
Yeah, well, because she back then she was she wasn't just like a barmaid, she was a co-pilot. So when I was off duty and I wasn't piloting, she would pilot along with the help of the AI, and there was like this whole like diary entry from her about like she's the best damn pilot in the galaxy, so she's gonna damn well enjoy it while she's on duty.
Oh, I see. Okay.
Yeah, and then there was a whole like incident report about that. There were a lot of incident reports about Emmy.
Definitely an interesting one, that's for sure.
Yeah. Give me a sec. Sound effects fulfilled.
Redeem, choose a voice.
Oh, you want a voice for the reading? Okay. Give it to me, Fractum. Nothing too crazy. Fracta. Fracta. You're holding us up, Fracta. God damn it.
I
You
would
may
just...
learn, even from this, what kind of things appear good to the many. For if any man should conceive certain
We
things
already did that
as being...
part.
Did we?
Yeah, we were just talking about how where one of the
you're right.
examples was it. Yeah,
I am
we were just on that.
composed of the formal and the material. Neither of them will perish into non-existence, as neither of them came into existence out of non-existence. Every part of me, then, will be reduced by change into some part of the universe, and that again will change in... change... God damn it.
Continue!
Will change into another part of the universe, and so on forever. And by consequence of such a change, I too exist, and those who begot me, and so on forever in the other direction, for nothing hinders us from saying so, even if the universe is administered according to definite periods of revolution. What does that mean? Maybe he's specifically talking about like actual periods of revolution. I know that was a big thing in Rome.
I don't...
Or it could be...
I can't remember. They knew of celestial bodies, right? So maybe
it
they
could
were
also
talking
just be
about that.
revolution of stars and suns.
Yeah, like it could just be time.
I think it's your turn because I did 11 through 13.
No, I just think it's actually kind of interesting. So, I mean, this is a very consistent thought that he has, is where, you know, I am from nature, I will go back to nature, and it will just be on that way forever as far as, you know, whatever. Even if it would be that way, even if there's a finite amount of time. I don't know. He's just saying that over and over again. I think this is the I think you were right where he has a particular fear of death, where he thought about it a lot. So I shall continue. So, Das Chandia. So what we're going through is we're going through the 5th book, Marcus Aurelius' Meditations. So we're doing some discussion back and forth between Nevi, who is the person who's on this channel, and then myself, Lofam, who is the, of course, Burb, one might say. So, continuing.
I would rather you use my proper title, Captain of the Rusted Boar.
Oh
and
my
Bartender.
goodness.
Thank you very much. Sorry, you're right. I broke character. I would rather you use my proper title, Captain of the Rusted Boar, and Bartender and Voice Actress. Thank you.
Yeah, no, I think Ruff was right. I think I'll ignore all that. Okay. Reasoning and the reasoning art, philosophy, are powers which are sufficient for themselves and for their own works. They move then from a first principle, which is their own, and they make their way to the end which is proposed to them. And this is the reason why such acts are named...
I will look it up.
Is that catharsis? That's not catharsis. Catarrhosis. Or right acts. Which
a person suffering from
words...
catatonia. That doesn't seem right.
Yeah. Okay, or right acts, which word signifies that they proceed by the right road. Oh, okay, so... Okay, reason are powers which are sufficient for themselves and for their own works. They move in for the first principle, which is their own, and they make their way to the end, which is proposed to them. And this is the reason why such acts are named are right acts, which words they proceed to the right road. I don't know. I'm not exactly sure if I understand that. I think he's just saying that philosophy is a way for you to get to the right road. Also, hydrate.
Catarrhosis is a term first noted by Marcus Aurelius in his book of Meditations based on Stoic philosophy. The term denotes the use of philosophical approach based on right acts which follow a logical pattern. So it's a word he made up.
I'm sure he based it on words that already existed, though. So
probably.
I mean, which is how that's how new words get made.
There was definitely roots there, but I don't know the roots.
I don't know the roots either. None of these things ought to be called a man's, which do not belong to a man. I already did. I was the one that told you that, and I grabbed some water.
Okay.
All right, I'm going to start again. None of these things ought to be called a man's, which do not belong to a man, as man. They are not required of a man, nor does man's nature promise them, nor are they the means of man's nature attaining its end. Neither then does the end of a man's lie in these things, nor yet that which aids to the accomplishment of this end. And that which aids toward this end is that which is good.
Yep.
Besides, if any of these things did belong to man, it would not be right for a man to despise them and set himself against them. Nor would a man be worthy of praise who showed that he did not want these things. Nor would someone be good for who stinted himself in any of them, if indeed these things are good. But when a man deprives himself of these things, or of other things like them, or even when he is deprived of any of them, he is a better man to the extent that he patiently endures the loss. Interesting. So do you understand that?
I'm going back through it again.
So I think he's talking about, I guess you could say, superfluous things. Just like things you don't actually need.
Like a VR model, for instance.
Okay, let's take that particular thing and let's go through the exercise of what he's talking about here.
Okay.
So let's see here, and aid toward the end. So it doesn't aid toward the end, which is basically, you know, whatever the goal is, I guess. Or in this particular case, I think it's actually death. Besides, if anything belonged to man, it would not be right for a man to despise them and set themselves against them. So there are plenty of people who don't like VTubers. I'm sure they exist. Nor would a man be worthy of praise who showed that he did not want these things. Nor would it be good. So yeah, I think they are literally just talking about things that aren't necessary to life. And he's just kind of describing how it doesn't make sense in a lot of cases. And the only thing you could take away from it are the people who wait patiently to endure the loss of whatever they want, right?
Mm-hmm. See, now I won't drop names. I don't drop names. But
sure.
Recently I saw a tweet.
I think I know what you're about to say, right?
Recently I saw a tweet where someone was going on about how people who charge $600 to $1,000 for VTuber models.
That's not even that expensive, by the way, for a good model.
Are
yeah, see, Ravioli knows exactly what we're talking about.
Yep, they said that they are trash. Now, first and foremost, calling those people trash is not within reason at all, in my opinion. If you're going to make an argument for this, you should not be, in my opinion, stooping to such base things as poisoning the well. Base fallacy.
I mean, it also goes back to the thing is like those very same people are going to be the ones that making the models that which you're talking about that people need, right? So
yeah. So then they go on to say that people, it's a problem because there are people that truly need it, where in reality nobody truly needs a
exactly what we were talking about. Nobody truly needs a virtual reality model, right? And that comes back to the thing where for example, nor would a man be worthy of praise who showed that he did not want these things, nor would someone be good who stinted himself in any of them if they indeed these things were good. Just like literally what we were just talking about.
Mm-hmm. And so actually taking and analyzing that tweet and looking at it, and you can basically say like nobody needs a V model. Even to stream. You can stream very easily. And I actually went to this person's stream and realized they didn't word anything well, and I don't think they even know what their argument is.
I don't need that big titty anime girl.
Because a lot of what they were saying, they were kind of backtracking on. Like, they even themselves said, you don't need a VTube avatar to stream. And so I don't really think that this particular person knows exactly where they're coming from when it comes to this argument. But at the end of the day, those people who make those need that money to be able to get food and
of course,
and rent. And so when you start,
we kind of discussed it very quickly. That's just basic economics.
When you start mentioning like these people who need these VR models need money for food and rent, it's kind of like, well, so do the people who are selling them, and on top of that, it's a situation of fund management and priorities. If you can't afford it, then that's just how it is. Save up some money. It might take months, a long time, but if you're patient and you endure the loss, you can get one if you want it.
Yeah, no, I do think that's really interesting. That the only thing that you can really derive from specifically wants, there are definitely wants, these aren't needs, is that, or even when he's deprived of them, he is a better man to the extent that he patiently endures the loss. That's the only thing you can possibly get from that. I
Like,
think
for
that's
me,
really good.
I spent months saving up money from voice acting to buy Hershey. You all know Hershey. She's the baby that lets me stream for you. Hershey is my yeah, I love you. I love you. You're a good girl. My PC. Shut up, Lofam. I know what you're thinking.
I didn't say anything. What are you talking about?
You were thinking it though.
Oh, what was I thinking?
Nevy's a freak for talking to her PC like it's a human being or a pet.
I'm gonna be really honest with you. I wasn't even paying attention. I was looking into the next section to see whether I was gonna read it. So you making assumptions were completely wrong.
I name and talk to all my electronics. I'm not crazy. You're crazy. Anyway, but yeah, no. when you look at a situation like that and you realize that that person is unsatisfied with their place in the universe. That's what I take from it. Now, of course, I'm not going to make huge presumptions of what this person thinks and what they do, but it sounds to me like the person is unsatisfied with their place in the universe, and they see a lot of what they view as injustice without really understanding exactly what's going on.
I think it just comes
behind
back to just like plain jealousy at that point.
Yeah.
It's like jealousy of what you're...
Because I delve deeper into it, into what their viewpoint was, and they talk about not just themselves, but other small streamers who just have these tiny things, and they want VR models, but they can't afford it yet. And it's like, yeah, okay, I get that you...
okay, I think this is gonna go back to one of my original things. I think I said near the beginning, I've said this way before, is that there are so many ways that you can improve yourself. Let's say you're a small streamer. There's so many ways, since you're small, to improve that would have more of an effect than just getting a model.
Exactly.
There are so many things that you could do. You do not need that.
A model.
There may be a point that you come to that you actually need it because you need something more to improve your stream. That you could. I can say that.
No,
hey,
for sure.
Maybe you need to do something else to improve, right? But you have so many things before you get to that point.
Like,
it's
a model,
ridiculous. And by the time you get to that point, you probably won't have a problem getting it.
Yeah, a model is just a nice little luxury that you can have to give your viewers something more to connect to. It's nice, but it's not necessary. Like, I want to get one, but it's not my highest priority on streaming. My highest priority was, setting up this style and getting the stylistic choices ready, getting a stinger.
It's just
like,
me just
all
not
the
being
little
lazy
things.
about streaming anymore. That's what I do. I do have time. It's just like
fair.
after work, it's just like, oh, do I really want to sit down?
No, that's fair. Like, it's tough to actually stream. I mean, like, even Emmy on her stream days where she chooses the game and she kind of like sets everything up for Saturdays, she's like, I don't know how you guys do this for so long. It's so tiring. And I'm like, I just kind of do it. It's just, at this point, it's become habit.
I just kind of do it.
Well, at this point, it started out with just discipline. Like, I wanted to stream on a schedule because it's good for giving me voice acting practice. And now, of course, I have more options for chat to choose things for voice acting practice because that's my overall goal. And so I discipline myself into streaming on this schedule always, never breaking it. Now it's such a habit that I almost never break it unless I'm wiped out sick, like absolutely sick, which occasionally, like maybe twice a month, I'll get a little
Or I mean,
sick.
they're like a holiday as well, so there's that too.
I think the only holiday I don't stream on is
Those when your boyfriend comes
Christmas.
and shows up.
Yep, is Christmas, and that's only because Reese really likes to spend Christmas with me. And even though I don't really like Christmas,
Gross.
I do it for him because I love him.
No.
Like, you make compromises, and I would like to make positive memories related to Christmas with him. So.
Okay. Well, I'm going
I
to
don't-
continue,
yeah,
and then
I
I'll
don't-
have you read
yeah.
the next sections.
Okay. Anyway, moving on.
Such as your habitual thoughts, so also will be the character of your mind. For the soul is dyed by its thoughts. Dye it then with a continuous series of such thoughts as these. For instance, that where a man can live, there he can also live well. But he must live in a palace. Well, then he can also live well in a palace. And again, consider that for whatever purpose each thing has been constituted, for that it has been constituted, and towards this it is carried, and its end is in that towards which it is carried.
Actually,
oh my god,
I do want to say something about this. This does kind of touch on what I was talking about with discipline, habits, kind of putting yourself.
Actually,
in the
I
right
think this
mindset.
is slightly different than what you're thinking.
Well, it does connect a little bit. Let me continue. No matter where you are, no matter what place in life you are, whether it's a physical place or a mental place, you can live well if you put yourself into a good state of habitual thoughts and actions. Because thoughts and actions are irrevocably connect. Or not irrevocably. That's not the word I'm thinking of. They are always connected. Your thoughts and your actions are necessarily connected. Like, if you keep thinking that life has something, that life for some greater being has something out for you and everything sucks, that's going to affect your actions. That's going to affect your life.
Yeah, no, it will.
No matter where you are, emotionally or physically, you can live well if you keep these things in mind. Discipline.
But I do think he is talking about something slightly different than what you're talking about. So, for example, the reason why I think he's talking about this a little different is this. It says, and I think this, once again, this is directed toward himself.
That's fair.
Such as these. That where a man can live, there he can also live well. But he must live in a palace. Well, then he can also live well in a palace. What I think he's talking about is himself or other people's occasions, such as this. This is a very common saying. So let's say, okay, so I'm going to talk about this, then I'll give an example. So he's talking about himself where he is basically forced to live in a palace. He never, like, when he was young, he definitely did not have a choice of what to do. And then as his station, it's very well expected of him to live in a palace.
Yep.
And it's a very common saying that a lot of people believe that rich cannot be virtuous. What he's saying, that he does not believe that's the case. That if you have to live in a place, you can live, or you can live well. So as in you can be virtuous even if you're rich, which is what I think he's talking about, or whatever your position is, right? I think that is what he's talking about in this particular case. And I think he's talking about himself.
Okay, I think a good example of that. Now, you can interrupt me. You can change your. You can, like, not insert your own idea on this. But I think a good example of this would, on some degree, be Elon Musk, rich, bright.
Yeah, no,
and
you could say that there are some. He has virtues even as a rich person, right?
Like, yeah, okay, maybe he's a little kooky, for sure. He's a little, quirky, kooky, a little crazy, not like all the other men. But he is striving towards something that ultimately he wants to improve humanity with, like colonizing Mars or creating.
Yeah, but I don't think that's. I think that's getting off topic about living well, though.
Yeah. Well, I'm using this as an example to living virtuous, right? He's got the view of the people around him and the people under him within his mind constantly. At least from what I've seen in his interviews, his talks, his actions.
You're talking about Elon Musk, right?
Yes, Elon Musk.
Because I thought you were talking about Marcus for a second, because you're talking about the people under him. I'm like, wait, what?
No, I'm talking about Elon Musk.
Yeah, Elon Musk. Elon Musk.
Well,
yeah, of course.
Well, in a way, they're similar in stature, although it's a different system. They're very similar in stature, where he's a very rich man with a lot of power, a lot of influence. Sure. And so, to me, I look at him and I say, like, I think, like, is this man a good man? And I think, at the very least, he's living to his principles. He wants to improve the lives of the people under him, the people that, he clearly can influence and change. He wants to do all these things. Like, for instance, the Neuralink. The first thing that he wants to do with Neuralink, it's not some gaudy, stupid, extra little luxury where, you know, you can record your memories. No, the first thing he wants to do is to try and apply that to people with like seizures and shit, to try and figure out what's going on and see if he can help alleviate that.
By the way, so I want to finish, I guess, this little section because
Yeah.
I think what you're
Sorry,
talking about
go ahead.
also is involved in it, but you'll see why.
Yeah, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Let's see here. Where the end is, there is also the advantage and the good of each thing. Now, the good for the reasonable animal is society, for it has been shown above that we are made for society. It is not plain that the inferior exists for the sake of the superior, but the things which have life are superior to those which have not life, and of those which have life, the superior are those which have reason. So he's talking about, so kind of what you're talking about right here. Says, where the end, there's also the advantage of the good of each thing. Now the good for the reasonable animal society. So what you're talking about. So for example, you're talking about how Elon Musk wants the betterment society. I think this is exactly what he's talking about. And this is what he would have in his mind as well, where he's trying to be good for the society, whatever he thinks in that particular case would be Rome.
Yeah, of course. I honestly have to say, I think book 5 is much better than book 4. Just looking at our looking at our discussions.
But not better than book 3. Book 3 was a fucking bomb.
No, book 3 was amazing. But
book 3 was amazing.
But just looking at our discussions, we are talking about things that, like, as we go through it, that connect to usually connect to the next section or the next part that he's talking about. Like, it's very well paced, very well connected. Things are very well explained. Okay,
so
17?
Yeah, 17. All you.
Okie doke. I didn't finish my character, so we're gonna do 4 minutes of that.
What? Oh, continue.
To seek what is impossible is madness, but it is impossible that the bad should not do something of this kind.
That's pretty funny.
Nothing happens.
I mean, it's just a little. Sorry.
Go ahead.
It's funny to seek what is impossible is madness, but it's impossible that the bad should not do something of this kind. He's basically just calling out, I guess, bad people.
Yeah.
It's like he totally expects them to do stupid, mad, kind of crazy shit.
Mm-hmm. This Avatar TLA review is getting out of hand.
Anyway, continue.
Nothing happens to any man which he is not formed by nature to bear. The same things happen to someone else, and either because he does not see that they have happened, or because he would show a great spirit, he is firm and remains unharmed. It is a shame that ignorance and conceit should be stronger than wisdom.
Sorry. That got me.
Oh, why is that?
The same things happen to someone else, and either because he does not see that they have happened, because he's ignorant, or because he would show a great spirit, because, he's firm and remains unharmed. It is a shame, then, that ignorance and conceit should be stronger than wisdom. In other words, people that are oblivious to their own suffering sometimes are more firm than those that are aware of it. And it's just...
Yes, that's true.
It's just
I
very,
think
very
what
ironic.
he's saying actually is that ignorance and conceit are more common than wisdom.
That's fair, too.
Things themselves touch not the soul, not in the least degree, nor have they admission to the soul, nor can they turn or move the soul. The soul turn and moves itself alone, and whatever judgments it may think proper to make, such it makes for itself the things which present themselves to it.
Actually, that makes a lot of sense. So, for example, a lot of people say that. So, for example, let's say take jealousy, drugs. A lot of things people go after, right? They say they have those things have power over them, but that is not the case. It is themselves that are basically giving themselves over to the objects, not the other way around.
Mm-hmm. You are giving those objects and that physical
substance, whatever you want to call it, right?
What
Yeah,
you are
the
giving that
things.
physical thing power over you.
Yeah.
Now, don't get me wrong. Yeah, there are some horrible situations out there where, for instance, somebody gets in a car crash and they
Oh,
get
yeah.
they get prescribed opioids, and then the doctors are just like, okay, we're just gonna take you off them now, without ever weaning them or anything, and then they're addicted, and yeah, that has a physical.
Actually, that's happened quite a bit.
A lot.
In the United
That's
States,
one of
actually.
the biggest reasons for the opioid crisis in America, but we won't go too deep into that. It has a physical effect on your mind, but there are actions you can take if you keep aware of yourself. This is why when they first administered morphine to me, I was like, no, never again. I would rather just take the pain. Take the pain.
I understand. It's a terrible situation, but it all really ultimately comes down to is that you still have your will, right? You still
Yeah.
are making those choices, even if you are influenced in some way. Like, no, so for example, like we were talking about, like whether you're not being tortured, you ultimately still have that power. They can, of course, do tons and terrible things
Yeah,
and
no, for
stimuli to
sure.
you, but you ultimately still have that choice. I
That's
think
not
it still
to
comes
that's
back
not
to
to
that.
that's not to undercut the
Of course,
gravity
of
of the
course it doesn't,
situation.
right?
Of course, like yes, it is very difficult. Like okay, a few years back, I had a little scare. Like there was this stabbing chest in my pain. We weren't sure what it was. I got sent to the hospital, and they were trying to figure out what was going on, and they just said, "Give her some morphine to deal with the pain."
Mm-hmm.
I was already uncomfortable with that idea in the first place because, you know, I've seen what morphine can do to people, especially to my mother. And they gave it to me, and like, it was the worst feeling of my life. Not because it was a bad feeling, but because I just didn't care about anything.
Oh well, I mean, you're drugged up, man.
Yeah. I didn't care about anything. I was just sitting there, light. The pain was there. I could feel it. I just didn't give a shit. Like, it just didn't matter.
So, I see this as in a different I think a little bit differently. I think there is a golden mean of understanding not good. And let me describe what I'm talking about. Maybe this will make a little bit more sense. So let's say someone is wronged in some way, like in a great way.
Yeah.
Wife cheats on them, takes the kids, takes the house, all that kind of crazy stuff, and then goes in a fit of passion, kills the wife and lover, whatever it is. Right?
Yep.
One could understand the passion, the mistake, but you would still not call it good.
Yeah, no, for sure.
Right? And that's why I'm saying there's a golden mean of understanding of, say, the thing with the drugs and the substances and like the bad situations. There is a level of understanding from which people will have, but we will never call it good.
No, we will never call it good.
Or at least I will never call it good, right?
I
and
won't.
so that's why I think that, yes, there is some level of understanding that you can definitely give to the situation. But once again, I think Marcus is right on this thing where the soul turns and moves itself alone, and whatever judgment it may think prior to make, such it takes for itself and things present themselves. I think that ultimately that is true. So that's my personal take on it.
But yeah, no, it's something to keep in mind. In one respect, sorry, I forgot about the character. Water?
Yes, of course.
In one respect, man is the nearest thing to me. So far as I must do good to men and endure them.
No,
But
he's
so
right.
far as some men make themselves obstacles to my proper acts, man becomes to me one of the things which are indifferent, no less than the sun or wind or a wild beast. Now it is true that these may impede my actions, but they are no impediments. They are no impediments to my effects and disposition, which have the power of acting conditionally and changing. For the mind converts and changes every hindrance to its activity into an aid. And so, that which is a hindrance is made a furtherance to an act, and that which is an obstacle on the road helps us on the road.
I think that goes back into what we were saying about, failure can help you.
Yeah,
that
no,
which
I
is a
think
hindrance.
well, it's not specifically failure, but so he was talking about just like he used Min as an example because
Yeah.
of his station, but it could be a lot of things. It doesn't specifically have to do it. Like he's talking about how something that could be a hindrance can be made into a furtherance, and I think this is a very natural thing that we try to do.
I mean, we tell stories, and there's a reason for that. Like, as humans, there is a reason for that. When we tell stories, we are trying to share advice, trying to share lessons.
I don't
be
try to
learned.
share advice. I think it's useless because I don't
Well-
think people are going to listen.
Human sociality. Like, that's how you say it, right? Sociality? I think so. Maybe I just made up that word. I don't care. I'll just be a Shakespeare. Fuck it. Human sociality is very much based around the idea of we share information between each other to try and help ourselves survive better. Now, of course, this is
I guess that's
changed
true.
with the rational mind and the will becoming more and more prevalent in humankind, but it's still very deeply ingrained in our culture and who we are. Any culture, you look at any culture, and that is a thing, right? Telling stories, and there are lessons to be learned. I mean, hell, when your friend tells you, like, yeah, I got in a car accident the other day, you want to listen, right? It's not just because, you feel for them or anything. There's probably something to be learned from that you can use in the future when, or if or when you get, well, statistically speaking, when you get in a car accident. But, yeah. Anyway, moving on. Where did I start?
I think
again?
it was me. I was 21.
I started at 17, right? I'll do 21 and then you can start 22.
Sure. And that'll go to 26 or 27, whichever one.
Yeah, I think 26 is good. I can start on 27.
Revere that which is best in the universe, that which makes use of all things and directs all things. And in this manner also revere that which is best in yourself. And this is of the same kind as that. For in yourself also, that which makes use of everything else is this. And your life is directed by this. Okay, I need to rest that voice for a while. But revere that which is best in the universe.
No, I mean this is kind of directing also part of like goals, ambitions, things of that nature. This is part of your nature, right?
Give me a second to get a voice line.
I think you got another voice. Southern Belle, so that's gonna be your next one. Good thing you got a little time to practice. All right. Anyway, that which does no harm to the state does no harm to the citizen. In the case of every appearance of harm, apply this rule: if the state is not harmed by this, neither am I harmed. But if the state is harmed, you must not be angry with who does harm to the state. Show him where his error is.
So, I just want to remind everyone who's in chat, for those of you who have not been to one of these before, state does not refer to a federal state or a state that controls. It refers to a community, right? It's just similar roots.
A state could be a lot of things. For example, the state in this particular case could be him. So, for example,
true.
if somebody's just shouting at you, no harm's actually been done, right?
I do love the show him where his error is, though.
Yeah, so it could mean a lot of things. I guess it depends on which state you're talking about. Because I think it could be...
Well, he did talk
a lot
about
of
how
things.
all men, all humans are a small part of a greater organism. So if you're talking about a state, could mean a state of being. Like, I mean, if we take it to mean that, it could be a human, it could be a town.
Yeah, no, it could be yeah, right.
It could be an entire, like a huge community, a city, an entire government-controlled area, like a country. I forgot the name.
I think
for
he was talking about
government-controlled
country
area.
because he talks about the citizen, right?
That's fair.
Anyway, I shall continue.
Please do.
Often think of the rapidity with which things pass by and disappear, both the things which are and things which are produced. For substance is like a river in a continual flow, and the activities of things are in constant change. And the cause work in infinite varieties, and there is hardly anything which stands still. And consider this which is near you, this boundless abyss of the past and of the future in which all things disappear. How then is he not a fool who is puffed up with such things or plagued about them and makes himself miserable? For they vex him only for a time, and indeed for a time that is short. Yeah, no, that's actually really good advice. I mean, this is just about things that like are bothering you. It's like, look, those things are going to be like nothing. Those things are like a flash, an instance. Why are you so worried?
It's
about
another
them?
classic. It's a good way of saying everything is temporary, not just your suffering.
So what are the
your
things
happiness.
I do want to mention? So like before even this, I've heard of Stoicism and whatnot, but I hadn't like really did much into it or delved much into it. Which I think this is probably the biggest delving into Stoicism I've done ever. Now, one of the, I guess, criticisms that I've heard on multiple occasions about Stoicism is that there is a particular, I guess, thought problem that Stoics actually provide to people. And so it's like, all right, if you were going to die tomorrow, what would you be doing? What would be important to you right now? And it's supposed to shake you out of the daily kind of grind situation, the things that don't matter. Like this thought example is supposed to tear
It's a
away
very
the things,
famous
burn
thought
away the
example,
things.
too.
Yeah, burn away the things that don't matter to you, right? And one of the critics that people always say to Stoics is that, oh, so you're basically trying to say that, like, a lot of people would say, oh, there was an argument of saying, okay, you are dead. Obviously, nothing matters, right? Like, you care about nothing. You should care about nothing. I think that's a thing that I heard people say about Stoics all the time, which I think is untrue. And reading from this book, I would have to agree that, I don't think that's true. Stoics aren't like these emotionalists, people who are just going through.
That's a critique that places Stoicism on the same pedestal, very low pedestal, mind you, of nihilism.
Nihilism, which I do not think they're anywhere near.
No. They even the question itself says what matters. That means there is emotional attachment, some kind of attachment to the world. It's just.
I think Stoics would call that human.
Exactly, a human attachment to the world that is still important to Stoics. They're not saying don't feel, right? That's not what Stoicism is about. They're just saying reorder your life so that which is important is your priority.
Yeah, I think that's good. It's good advice. Just wanted to throw that out there.
Yeah, I mean, reordering your life is almost always a good thing, as long as you keep in mind what is important to you and you keep asking yourself questions.
I shall continue.
Please do.
Think of the universal substance of which you have a very small portion, and of universal time of which a short and indivisible internal has been assigned to you, and of which is fixed by destiny, and how small a part of it you are. I mean, this is better than like. I think it's important to, like. I think this is one of the things is he's always trying to keep himself in frame of not inflating who he is. Like ultimately he was just a man. I think if you were to ask Marcus Aurelius, who you are, he would say, I am a human man, and that's it. Like I think that's exactly how he describe himself. I don't think he would call himself emperor. I guess maybe depending on the situation, right? But I think he was trying to make sure his ego was never inflated.
I've gotten questions like that many times where it's like people just asking questions like, how are you so amazing, or why are you so awesome, things like that, and I'm just like, I'm not. I'm just me.
Yeah, no, I think
like I'm just a human, and I'm just Nevi.
I mean, they already talked about flattery and why you would actually take the flattery or the applause of people who they themselves have like nothing, like they have like they are not working on themselves. They are not like good people in this particular sense, as good as
even putting aside like the flattery, like that's something I tried. Like when people actually are like, oh my god, you're so awesome, I try to impress upon them that like, no, I'm not. I'm just a normal person, just like you, and everyone could be like me if they wanted to. I wouldn't tell them to. That wouldn't necessarily be. I wouldn't be so arrogant as to say you should be like me, right?
Oh yeah. Oh never.
But I would say you should be you. and you should be true to yourself.
I do have an answer to Garrick's question. So he says,
Go ahead.
so no little distractions to keep yourself entertained. I think that's perfectly fine. Because there are multiple ways to actually describe that, because one of the things is to, I think he said it's on multiple occasions, to have no actions without purpose, which I think is good advice in my opinion. But he also says on multiple occasions that you should also rest, being entertained and doing things and like spending time. So for example, let's say one of your goals is to have a family and you really want to have a family. Well, one of your goals is to definitely obviously spending time with your family, since that's your goal, right? And so I think what you say, keeping yourself, or distractions to keep yourself entertained, those distractions, I'm doing quotation marks right here, could actually be your rest.
Yeah.
And they would have a purpose then.
I think it's important to distinguish distractions from entertainment. If your entertainment has purpose, I don't think it's really a distraction anymore.
Yeah, no, exactly. That's what I'm saying. Like I think you saying entertainment and distraction.
Let's take book club, right?
Yeah.
Book club has a purpose. He even mentions it early on, because a lot of entertainment back then was only books and like plays and stuff. He mentions like do not throw yourself in your books as a distraction. Even reading books, you can have a purpose in reading a book. You can want to analyze it, talk about it, have a social engagement over the book, which is what book club is. It has a purpose for those of us that are currently engaging in the book club. So,
well, I mean, if we want to talk about the book club, I did actually have multiple like reasons why I wanted to do the book club.
Go ahead.
So book club was the thing that I've always wanted to do. And the reason is that for a very long time, I've had problems with being social. And as I've gotten older, those have actually gotten easier because I've gotten more experience. And
of course,
I'm not going to go too deep into that. But being in a book club is something I always wanted to do. So it's like, hey, I have this opportunity, right? It's like a thing that I realized, like, hey, wait, I have some type of community that I helped build with Nevi and whatnot. I have the opportunity to do the book club, which is something I've always wanted to do. Second, I think the book club is actually a good thing. I think it's actually a hobby that actually has some good to it. Even if the thing we only read is things like novels and whatnot, I still think it's actually really important.
Even fantasy books, because it can still grow and help people.
Well, I'm actually completely ignoring that, right? I'm talking.
No,
I'm not even thinking about the
not
lessons.
Not the lessons, not that. Specifically, it can help people grow their ability at critical thinking. It can help them grow as people,
Well, yeah, no, that's why I'm just talking about, like, reading in general. I think is a good thing. So that's why I don't.
It
think
helps
it's a
with
terrible
articulation
thing.
too.
Plus, I think for a lot of people, we get really caught up in our day-to-day stuff, and having something which I don't think is a huge bother. I never wanted to feel like it's a bother reading this book. I wanted to definitely be entertainment. I think you could say the book club is, in K-Arc's thing, it's not a distraction, it is entertainment. It is rest that I have made for myself and other people.
Exactly. And I also have to say, the book that we are currently reading is the first book of the Dresden Files, Stormfront.
Which is really good, by the way.
It is really fucking good. I finished it in 3 days. I could not put it down. It was amazing. Oh my god.
Yeah, well.
Well written.
Yeah, no. The Dresden series is definitely good.
I'm so hyped about it. It's so cool. It's such a good book. You need, like, even if you're not in the book club, I could not suggest this book enough. It is fucking amazing.
Anyway, I shall continue. Yeah, no, the book is
before
very
you do,
well
I would like to take a quick plort. So, you go
what,
ahead.
Already? Baby bladder Nevi.
I've been hydrating a lot. I'm sorry.
No, continue. Go for it.
Okay, let me just mute myself.
Well, I'm still here, chat. Don't worry about it. So if you guys have any questions or you want my take on something, now would be the time. Let's see here. We have probably another 20 minutes, maybe a bit longer if we get sidetracked. But we're almost done with the reading portion of the stream, and we'll be going to Raft after that. But yeah, you have a question for Acta? Go for it. Oh, take your time. Just as a side thing, I'm also listening to different music than Evie. I don't have the same stuff as the stream is because I don't want to listen to myself. At least I don't want to hear the echo of our conversation, so I have my own music. And I'm listening to Filter Tipped by Zayas. Really good. I highly recommend. Actually, in fact, I'm probably going to have a little listen party when I finally get it. Probably going to be next month when it... Oh, actually this month, I guess. What's up?
A cassette?
Yeah, no. Filter Tipped by Zayas. Did you ever look that up, by the way? You said you were going to, but...
One second. It should be... No, that's Tom Rocco's guide. No.
Also, Fracta does have a question, so I'm letting them type that out. Whatever they're going to be doing it. No, they're doing it right now.
I swear you sent me a link to their stuff, and I listened to a little bit of it.
Can we go back to the last text you read out? I want to understand more. Please read out the statement. All right, let's see here. Okay. Think of the universal substance of which you have a very small portion, and of universal time, of which a short and indivisible interval has been assigned to you, and of that which is fixed by destiny, and how small a part of it you are. And so my take was that Marcus was really one of the things he really wanted to do was make sure that he understood himself and where he was, I guess, just in general. And I think he was doing that because he did not want to become a tyrant. I think he knew very well that, as the Roman emperor, he could do a lot of things and a lot of them bad. And I think he was always tempering himself and using, one of those tools is that he always reminded himself how small he actually was, even as the Roman emperor. That's what I think that particular statement was for.
Very humble man.
Yes, no, very, very humble. Like making sure that he never became the tyrant of which
humble,
people...
but not meek as well. I think that's.
No. I mean, if he was meek, then he would not have gone to so many wars as he did.
Yeah, no, that's something important. It's good to be humble, but on the bad side of humble, there's also meek. Again, with the golden mean, which again is an outside source, but.
I think the golden mean is so important to almost everything we do as humans.
That's actually one of the few things in the Bible that I do not agree with. I think it's one of the stupidest things that was ever written in the Bible is that the meek will inherit the earth or the world.
No, I don't think so.
And I don't think so. I think a better way to say it is that the humble will inherit the earth.
Yes, that's different than meek, though.
Yeah, exactly.
Meek is not taking action even when you should. Rash is taking action when you shouldn't, but humble is knowing when to do things.
Exactly. All right. My turn?
No. I was going to read 26, remember? And you're picking up on 27?
Okay.
All right. Let the part of your soul which leads and governs be undisturbed by the movements in the flesh, whether of pleasure or of pain, and do not allow it to unite with them, but let it circumscribe itself and limit those effects to their parts. But when these effects rise up to the mind by virtue of that other sympathy that naturally exists in a body, which is all one, then you must not strive to resist the sensation, for it is natural. But do not allow your ruling part of itself add to the sensation of the opinion that it is either good or bad. So he's basically saying just don't let, things control you. That's like, even, whether it be pleasure or pain. That's all it is. That's very simple.
I find the use of the word circumscribe interesting because that means to draw a circle. And do not allow it to unite with them, but let it circumscribe itself and limit those effects to their parts. So essentially, let it play itself out. Enjoy it, dislike it, whatever. But don't let it become part of your soul for permanence.
Yeah, no, I think as I was saying before, don't let things control you.
I just think that's a really good wording, personally. Just very interesting way to word it, and I think it's very well done in this context. Of course, again, there was a lot lost or a lot of weird translations, so circumscribe might not be the perfect word, but
But he also describes this. I think this is also really interesting. But when these effects rise up to the mind by virtue of that other sympathy that naturally exists in a body which is all one, then you must not strive to resist the sensation, for it is natural. So, for example, if you are happy because you're doing the right things, don't beat yourself up about it.
Yeah. If
Right, it's literally that easy, right?
like it even goes on to like the difference between lust and love, right? Like if
Yeah,
you
no,
love
that's
somebody
true.
and you're sexually attracted to them, as a stoic, that doesn't mean you should push your
Not have
sexual
sex with them, right?
You should push that sexual attraction down because that's bad. No. Allow yourself to experience that, but do not allow that experience to control you.
Yeah, like, which would be like saying, oh, since you can't get sexual pleasure from your wife anymore, now you're going to go and cheat on him or something like that.
Yeah.
I think that's one of those things, right?
Yeah, that's
It's very easy to translate into like real world things.
Speaking of that too, in my opinion, if you are in a dedicated relationship, a committed relationship, because I know some people are in like relationships with multiple people.
Yeah,
I don't,
sure.
I don't really judge about that. Just not my thing.
Or
But
are
if
they
you-
in a relationship where they say it's open, where they can just do
Yeah,
other things if you
and
want
like,
to?
I don't judge, not my thing. But like, if you're in a committed relationship, I don't personally think there is any good reason to cheat ever.
As
and
a
I think-
humble stoic, I get bad game.
As a humble st-
Well, okay, it's funny you say that, but one could actually describe it like that. So just imagine, like, who is happier? The guy who is having sex with his wife and is perfectly content with that, or the guy who has sex with 20 women but still does not fulfill his sexual fantasy or his needs?
I mean, I think it's also important.
You could say the stoic's got mad game, right?
Yeah. Well, I think it's also important to note that sexuality is so much more than just having sex. Like, I know a lot of people, and I don't judge people if they want to go out and have promiscuous sex. That's up to them. It's their choice. They're human beings. I'm not going to judge them for it. But I think it's important to also note that sex is also a very emotional and tying thing. Like, it's very important to a relationship. Like, there are reasons that we feel the way we do when we have sex. And so when you're in a committed relationship and you have sex with your wife or your boyfriend or your girlfriend or whatever you want to call them, when you have sex with your lover, there is a certain emotional connection that happens. And if that sex becomes less fulfilling, that's fine. All you have to do is talk about it. You can branch out. You can change things.
Oh, well,
Because-
I'm not getting into that. I'm just like,
Well, no, I'm
sure,
just
if you want to
saying-
have that conversation, sure, but I don't think
I'm
that
just-
necessarily has anything to do with.
No,
this
I'm just
particular-
saying, like, if you feel in any situation that the emotion or the gratification from sex or love or any other part of your relationship is waning, just talk. Communication is the key to any proper relationship. If you are not satisfied in any way in your relationship, open a proper civil dialogue with your partner, and all you have to do is figure
Heavy,
it out
I think you're
together.
getting way off topic.
No, I'm not. It's important.
I think you are.
It's important. It's important to love. Love is important
I
to
understand,
human
but
beings.
That had nothing to do with what we were talking about.
No, you don't get it. You just don't get it. None of you get
Sure.
it. I'm just a romantic at heart, okay?
I just think you're using it as an excuse to try to get into your own little tirade right there. Anyway, so Fractal was asking a question. How would that be worded in context? Does that mean pleasure / playing, training / working, or something else? So, what do you mean exactly by that, Fracta?
What does this mean?
No, I mean, by what context is he actually asking about?
Mm.
So, for example, one could say that almost anything could be taken to the extreme, and then that could be going against whatever you should be doing in this particular case. So, pleasure or pain. So, you could trying to put this in a way like Fracta was trying to ask about.
Oh shit, Wolf followed me. Thank you, Wolf. I didn't see them. That's weird. I didn't get a notification about it.
No, so okay, I think this is what they're particularly talking about. So when he's talking about the moods and flesh, and then the mind itself should be circumscribed, as in it should be its own little thing, and everything else should be, limit those things to its parts. So, for example, I think what he's talking about is not having those things affect your mind in a particular way, or your demon, whatever you want to call it. Your principles, for example. So, if your principles is that you want to be healthy, then the pain of working out should not stop you from doing so.
Or the pleasure of eating should not stop you from doing so.
Or yeah, no, it could be any number of things. That is all that
I
think
just put
this
that in
particular
because
means.
you said pleasure or pain. So they're two very, very common and very good examples for a workout. Right?
Sure, but there was also this particular thing as well. You could say, and at the end of the day, let's say you do all that work and you are healthy, that you're fit and whatnot. It is okay to feel good about that situation because it came from.
Oh yeah.
What would you call it? It's natural. You're saying like you had this goal, you actually reached your goal. It's perfectly natural to feel some type of, I don't know, just like happiness, right? Contentment that you actually did it. 100% okay. You should be like, oh, it's not good enough. I'm just gonna keep on beating myself up. No, that's perfectly fine.
Some
I think
cases,
a lot of people
you might feel exalted, like you overcome a huge barrier, and you do something amazing, right? Yeah, I heard.
One could say, for example, I think this actually happens a lot. So, for example, let's say, I know this happens. This is a really good example for younger women who feel insecure about their weight, and they do many things to try to get that weight down. I think this is a pretty known problem where this happens, and then they get habits that are very unhealthy, whether that be like throwing up or not eating or doing other things, and that's interfering at that point, right? That's when they let the sensations of pain, pleasure, whatever it's going to be, interfering with their mind.
I think that's a very good question here, and I'd like to answer it. Do you think pain, discomfort, loss of something is a better motivator than gain, lust, advantage of achieving the thing? No. The answer to that question is I don't think either is better. Most people who are well balanced have a little bit of hell behind them and a little bit of heaven ahead of them. And what I mean by that is that behind them they have the pain and discomfort motivating them. Whether it's the pain and discomfort of the thought of failing, or the pain and discomfort of the actual workout, and then the image of their goal ahead of them, the motivator of that pulling them forward. So it's a little bit of both in a proper, well-balanced situation. I don't think either one is better. I think they are best suited to both be there with the person. Because again,
for me, I think it's really based on context, for example.
That's true too. I mean, context is definitely important, but I think as a general kind of situation, any goal, you can reach any goal better if you have a bit of pain and a bit of pleasure pulling you.
I also do think I think it really does come back to the context of the person, because people are so complicated. So, for example,
people are very.
Let's say, okay, let's say. Because I mean, this is a thing that generally happens, and I'll just kind of describe it as it playing out.
Go for it.
Let's say that you have a person, and they have and they're lazy, and they're eating too much, and they're getting fat, whatever, right? All right.
Yep.
The gang of it is just being healthy, right? And maybe that's not enough for them. All right. And so the other thing is the pain or discomfort of being, going through clothes, the shame they're doing, and maybe even still it's not enough, right? Until the thing is the pain, the discomfort that you're getting is naturally getting worse to the point where you then are forced to change. I think that's something that nature just does naturally. Mm-hmm. And so I don't think you really have to worry about it too much of whether or not one thing is better or the other. I think nature will be the one that chooses it. Whether or not you do it because you want to be healthy or the discomfort is too much eventually.
It is definitely
that for a lot of problems that happens where the discomfort will grow until basically it forces you to do whatever the opposite is.
It's definitely contextual to the person, but the idea of if I do this I get this, or if I don't do this this happens, at least for me it's a bit of both, right? When I'm thinking of what I'm going to be doing next, I think a little bit of both, right? Behind me, I have, if I don't do this, things are going to fall out of order. And if I do this, things are going to feel right. I know that I'm going to be happy with it, right? So I get two motivators on top of me to say, okay, go do your laundry, or okay, go wash your dishes. Of course, it's habit at this point, but it's still like the base idea that I'm talking about. Anyway,
I think a better way to describe what I describe without being so wordy and longy is that people who ignore the bad things will get worse and worse ones until they are forced to face reality, and then whatever they have to face will be worse than whatever they had in the first place.
For myself, York, it is neither. I know that's kind of vague, but neither the pleasure or the pain is worse. Like, it's just part of my life, and I try to use them both to the best of my ability to make my life better.
For me, I would say it's really up to context, because I don't think if you asked younger me, then maybe younger me would have said like the gang, the advantage. But as I gotten older, I don't even think of those terms anymore. At least I don't now. For me, it's more like, what is my goal? And then what will I have to endure to get what I want? That may be pleasure, that may be pain, but that's all just like background noise of what my goal is.
But yeah.
Anyway, let's see here. You're at 27.
Darling.
Don't add words. This is gonna take even longer.
No, I was getting into character. Thank you very much.
Oh, I see.
Live with the gods, and he does live with the gods, who constantly shows to them that his own soul is satisfied with that which is assigned to him, and that it does all that the daemon wishes, which Zeus hath given him, or given to every man, for his guardian and guide, a portion of himself. And this is every man's understanding and reason.
I mean, that's pretty straightforward when we've already talked about that kind of stuff. What?
Indeed it is. I forgot to start the timer. Are you angry with someone whose armpits stink?
What? All right.
Looking at you, Smash players. Are you angry with one whose breath smells foul? What good will this anger do you? He has such a mouth. He has such armpits. It is necessary that such an emanation?
Yeah, no, it's coming out.
Oh, emanation. Yeah, emanation. I've never actually seen that word spelled. I know it. I've heard it. I've never actually seen it in a book, like spelled out.
Oh, well, now you have.
Weird. Yep. It is necessary that such an emanation must come from such things. But the man has reason, it will be said, and he is able, if he takes pains, to discover the source of his offense. I wish you well of your discovery. More water. Okay. Well then, and you have your reason. By your rational faculty, stir up his rational faculty. Show him his error. Admonish him. For if he listens, you will cure him, and there is no need of anger. Excuse me. Sorry. As you intend to live when they are gone out, so it is in your power to live here. But if men do not permit you, then get away out of life. Yet do so as if you were... Wert? I guess that's like a different way to say were?
I mean, I'll look it up.
Please do. Yet do so if you weren't suffering no harm. The house is smoky, and I quit it. Why do you think that this is in trouble?
It's an archaic second-person singular past of be. So yeah, were.
Yeah, it's were. Okay, archaic were. But so long as nothing of the kind drives me out, I remain, am free. No man shall hinder me from doing what I choose. And I choose to do what is according to the nature of the rational and social animal. Another fairly straightforward one, yeah.
Yeah, that's pretty good.
The intelligence of the universe is social. Accordingly, it has made the inferior things for the sake of the superior, and it has fitted the superior to one another. You see how it has subordinated, coordinated, and assigned to everything its proper portion, and has brought together into concord with one another the things which are the best. I think, again, he's talking about animals, rational animals.
I think he's just
social
about
hierarchy.
systems of nature.
Yeah. Much of the time when he talks of superior, he talks of the animals, the living, like he said earlier, the living is superior to the non-living. The
Well, I
rational
mean,
living is superior
you could
to
also
the
be
living.
saying, like survival of the fittest kind of situation.
That's
nature.
true too.
And you could even be saying that of ideas, like the superior ideas will live out in
That's
the
true too.
inferior ideas will be doing the
You
same.
could apply.
I think
you
this
could
is just
you-
a system
it's
of
a-
nature.
It's a very general thing. You could apply it to many things. How have you behaved hitherto toward the gods, your parents, brethren, children, teachers, to those who looked after your infancy, to your friends, kinsfolk, to your slaves? Consider if you have hitherto behaved to all in such a way that this may be said of you. Never has wronged a man in deed or word. And call to recollection both how many things you have passed through, and how many things you have been able to endure, and that the history of your life is now complete and your service is ended. And how many beautiful things you have seen, and how many pleasures and pains you have despised, and how many things
Called.
I know, I need water. Give me a sec. Sally sells seashells on the seashore. Sally sells seashells on the seashore. And how many beautiful things you have seen, and how many pleasures and pains you have despised, and how many things called honorable you have spurned, and how many ill-minded folks you have shown a kind disposition.
I think this is where I'll be taking him. So
Yep. I'll pause the timer, and you can go ahead.
I think he's just talking about having a good disposition to people, because at the end of it, that's probably what you're going to be judged on if you're going to be judged on anything.
I mean, sorry, I almost just fucking fell into the voice again. I mean, yeah, that's pretty straightforward. Like, even with slaves, he considered, like, yo, be kind to your slaves. I mean, it says so right here. Like, it seems to me that, like, he just wants you to, you know, be a good dude.
Well, what I'm
Like-
thinking, okay, so it says,
ahead.
how have you behaved hitherto toward the gods, your parents, your children, those who have you looked after your infancy, to your friends, kinsfolk, and to your slaves? So, like, I think he's specifically talking about your disposition, because I think this is a thing that he is thinking about himself when he is like, hey, when you're dead, how will people think of you? They will not think of your riches. They're going to think about your actions. What have
Exactly.
you done? Right? Like, not what have you accumulated in your life, what have you actually done in your life? And that's what people are going to be talking about you. And in this
Exactly.
particular case, he's not even talking about the slaves. Like, even the lowest of the low is like, you know, what are they going to be thinking of you?
They're still to
Like-
him, it seems they're still rational beings. So, to some degree,
I think it's interesting, by the way, that he does consider slaves rational beings. Though, I guess you could say that he probably thinks they have their own place of where they've been.
yeah. To be fair, too, a lot of slaves in Rome, not Greece. Greece was a little bit different, but a lot of slaves in Rome were specifically criminals.
I'm not
lot
going
of
to
slaves.
mention anything about particular slaves, because I'm sure it wasn't great in the first place.
No, it definitely wasn't great, but I think as compared to a lot of other countries that own slaves, it's a
I mean,
little
sure,
bit
if you
better.
want to...
Like
Whatever.
I'm just saying, as far as like an antiquated system that is clearly bad,
Sleepotova.
I think that's a little bit better. Also, slaves slaves who were criminals usually could pay off their debt to society and, of course, become a citizen again.
You know,
So
I have
I
a
think it's
particular interesting thought of or question, but I don't think I'm going to do it on stream. I think I'm
Okay.
going to actually do it ever. I'm going to actually make a note of it because I think it's actually interesting. Let me go ahead and make a note.
Okay. Too
One second,
spicy.
let me actually. No, look, I think it's an interesting topic to talk about simply because it's going deeper into that particular line of thought that I don't think they would let us do on stream. That's all.
fair. I just like questioning things like this. That's all.
Okay, let me write this down real quick.
All right. God, we're flying through this.
No, we're not. We're almost at 3 hours.
No, when you have fun, time flies by. I am flying through this. I'm very much enjoying this.
Okay, I got that written down. I shall start, and then I'll have to bio as well.
It
Alright, so
has
where was
almost been
I?
3 hours. Even Fracta can't believe it's been 3 hours.
Yeah, see? Yeah, no,
We've
it's
been having so
almost
much
3
fun.
We are close to the end, as I said before.
Yeah, we're
almost
very
done.
close.
Okay. Why do unskilled and ignorant souls disturb him who has skill and knowledge? What soul, then, has skill and knowledge? That which knows the beginning and the end, and knows the reason which pervades all substance, and though all time by fixed periods, revolutions, administers the universe.
Damn.
Oh, okay. So he's basically saying, like, if you, I guess this is going back to the thing of not letting just unnecessary things bother you, because he's like, look, why would these things bother you when you know that it all doesn't really like you're like the time is so small, the things that happen to you are so small. Why are you angry about those things? Why would you let them disturb you? I think that's what he's talking about.
I'm angry. Angry at gamers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Soon, very soon, you will be ashes or a skeleton, and either a name or not even a name. But name is sound and echo, and the things which are much valued in life are empty and rotten and trifling. And like little dogs biting one another, and little children quarreling, laughing, and then straightway weeping. But fidelity and modesty and justice and truth are fled. What?
Soon very soon
Okay,
you will be ashes or a skeleton, and either a name or not even a name. But name is sound and echo, and the things which valued in life are empty and not trifling. Oh, I think when he
I get
says things that are much valued in life, he's specifically talking about, you know, physical things again. But fidelity and modesty and justice are and truth are fled.
What is our? But that means they are also going away.
I mean, I guess if you die, they do leave. At least you. I'm not sure.
I'm not exactly sure what that means. I do get the first part where he's talking about, like, you're gonna die soon, right? And a lot of the things that we are considering that are valuable, right, are actually very little.
Yeah, no, for sure.
But I don't get the point with fidelity, modesty, justice, and truth are fled. I don't get that part.
So fled does have a second meaning, which isn't to, you know, run away or from danger
What does it
or
mean?
pursuers. It means to pass or pass swiftly, fly or have great speed.
I don't know. It still doesn't make much sense to me, even if we were trying to use the second one.
It definitely doesn't.
Yeah, I don't know. It's tough to say.
That is.
Up to
definitely
Olympus
tough to say.
from the widespread Earth. Once again,
Hesiod
not
Works,
much context.
Volume 197.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I'm just gonna continue because that just doesn't make a lot of sense to me.
it's a quote.
What then is there which still detains you here, if the objects of sense are easily changed and never stand still? And the organs of perception are dull and easily receive false impressions, and the poor soul itself is an exhalation from blood. But to have good repute amid such a world as this is an empty thing. Why then do you not wait in tranquility for your end, whether it is extinction or removal to another state? And until that time comes, what is sufficient? Why, what else than to venerate the gods and bless them, and to do good to men, and to practice tolerance and self-restraint? But as to everything which is beyond the limits of poor flesh, or of the poor flesh and breath, to remember that this is neither yours nor in your power. Okay, actually, that I think it actually makes sense. So he's talking about, it's like, look, it's like our bodies are weak, even our soul is just, another like little thing. It's like, if all these things are like empty, why then would you not then wait in tranquility? Why would you not be good to men? Why would you not do these things, right? I guess that makes sense, right? Like, so if like everything has so little meaning, why would you not try to do the best you can? Mm-hmm. I guess that makes sense, right? Like, why aren't you putting effort into trying to be good?
It's again that kind of thing where like the universe doesn't have meaning for you. Many people ask the question, what is the meaning of life? There is no direct meaning of life. There is no crazy answer to that. Meaning is up to you. It's the passion that you choose.
So he says, why then do you not wait in tranquility for your end, whether it's extinction or removal to another state? And until then, that time comes, what is sufficient? So he's like saying, like, while we're waiting to basically our journey to end, what is sufficient? What should you be doing? And it says, why else than to venerate the gods, bless them, and to do good by men, and to practice tolerance? So it's like why would you not be doing these things? Anyway, let's see here, 34. Okay. I'll do 34, then I'll let you finish.
Okay, but first I want to say to Fracta, no, that is not the meaning of life. It is the answer to life, the universe, and all that is. We don't know the question.
That's true. All right.
Try reading the Hitchhiker's Guide again. You're not a true fan.
You can pass your life in equable flow of happiness if you can go by the right way, and think and act in the right way. These two things are common both to the soul of God and the soul of man, and to the soul of every rational being. Not to be hindered by another, and to hold good to consist in the disposition to justice and the practice of it, and in this to let your desire find its termination. Actually, I do find that last sentence to actually be rather interesting. So, and to let your desire find its termination. I think that's actually kind of important, right? Because I think there's a thing where we have a lot of excess in our life right now, and to find a good termination of like, look, like to have like, oh, I made it, right? To actually have an end to your goals, whatever they may be, is like to have that feeling of actually finishing. I think that's actually kind of important because
eventually a lot of people have very vague goals, and this does not suit them very well because those vague goals don't have any definite, they don't have any definition of when that goal has been reached. Like some people, I just want to make it big on YouTube. Well, what does that exactly mean?
Yeah, what does that mean?
Right?
But
like,
but
do
I
you
also
just
think...
want to be well known? Do you want to make a lot of money? Like, you need to have a semi-definite set of goals for it, and then when that is done, you move on to the next goal. You terminate. You have that feeling, and you move on.
No, I just think that's actually really important because to have your desire find its termination could be applied to so many things. It's like okay, so you're lusting at women. What is the end of that? Like, what's good enough? I think that's a very important question. I think even should be answered.
Let's say another very simple example. You're a tech nerd. You really love tech a lot. So you're buying all of these pretty little gadgets, basically sort of wasting your money on them when they don't really do anything for you, and you kind of just play with them, but you don't really have a goal there. There's nothing that you're doing or creating from them, right?
Mm-hmm.
What is the end of that? What are you getting out of this? This desire for all of this tech, all of this crazy wireless gadget bullshit.
Well, you could just apply everything should really have a purpose, and like every action of yours should, including buying stuff, right? Like you need this to do this, to blah blah whatever. I do think it's important to have some type of end.
Yeah, I've been applying that principle to like buying things for a long time, not because I was applying the principle.
Also, I'm gonna be right back because I really do gotta go to the bathroom.
Okay. I've been applying that principle for a very long time, not because of the principle of it needs a purpose, but because I want to own as little as possible. Because when I was in the Navy, I moved around a lot. So I didn't want to have to move a bunch of stuff. So I only own what I absolutely need to do certain things. Like back when I made music, I had a fucking MIDI keyboard because I made music. When I stopped making music, when that desire terminated and I was satisfied with the end result, I got rid of the keyboard, right? When, like right now that I stream, I have a big PC. Normally I wouldn't buy something so big, but I need it to do a lot of my work along with my mic. Like these things have purpose in my life, and that's why I own them. I generally don't own anything without purpose. I think that's an important thing to ask yourself when you look at what you own and what you have and whether or not it's excess. Now, sometimes people collect. That's cool. If you want to collect things to make your room or your life or your living more beautiful, that's fine. If the purpose is to make something beautiful, that is a completely fair purpose. Like, a purpose doesn't necessarily have to be, oh, it needs to be useful. I'm just fairly Spartan in how I classify what I own. But for instance, some people will buy art because they think it's pretty, or some people will buy little figurines from their favorite anime and games because they think they're pretty. That's fine too. Absolutely fine, as long as, you're doing it within your means. But I think it's just important to ask yourself what purpose things serve in your life. Any questions? Class, any questions? Y'all have any questions for me? I'm here to answer. Ask away, Fracton. Take your time. Don't you worry. I don't know why I'm doing that voice. I'm not running the timer up. Sorry, go ahead.
No, I just said I'm back.
Go ahead.
What do you mean?
Go ahead.
Go ahead, what?
I don't know. I'm just shitposting.
Alright, so okay, I guess we're done. Bye. We'll just finish next week.
That's not what I meant. Stop.
We have like 2 sections left, and I guess we're just not going to do it.
Please, Lofam, don't leave me.
Well, that's your fault then.
Oh, God. I just realized I'm very hungry. Ever since I started working out, my metabolism has gone sky high, but I'm not going to change.
Really? It's almost like working out with burning calories is going to make...
Like, the thing is, I already had, like, a fucking high metabolism in the first place. I could eat a shit ton and just stay thin. I'm just a fucking little wire. That's what I am. But, like, I wanted to tone my body. I wanted to look better. I wanted to be proud of my body. So I started working out again because I knew that that would improve me and my physical being. And on top of that, it's just good to be physically healthy. So a big part of that, of course, is Marcus Aurelius. This book has kind of like pushed me like, you know what, maybe you should finally get back into working out. And I took the most incentivized path, which was if I buy a piece of equipment, that's going to incentivize me to work out more than just doing it on the ground, right? Because that's how I work. When I buy something, I have to use it. It needs to have a use in my life.
Gross.
What? That's how I order things in my life.
I'm just joking.
Like, if I own something, it needs to have a use. I just went on over this with everyone else.
Okay,
what about a hypothetical? Like the situation of trying to be able to move around, how does someone get unstuck? In what context?
Yeah.
Like move around from a country to a country, or like just physically moving? Sorry for...
That can mean a lot of things.
Yeah, it can mean a lot of things. So sorry for having to give you a question for a question, but for me, it was that I joined a Discord with lots of people being fit, so I said, fuck it. I won't be the only couch potato here. Yeah, peer pressure is also a very strong source.
I'm trying to be... If you want to ask the question in more details after...
You can always DM me. Take some notes.
I think since we're almost going on 3 hours, I'm not sure if we should do raft because we're not gonna have much time.
No, that's fine. We can finish this off with just philosophy. I definitely don't mind. We can finish off this philosophy section, answer some questions, give our thoughts, and that'll be that. Sound good?
Yeah, and then I'll just go into Discord, and if people have any questions they can do it there.
Yeah.
Because I also had the little discussion I want to that I think it's a little spicy for stream, so we can do that as well.
Of course. All right, so I'm going to continue, and then we will move on to questions, answers, thoughts, and then we will end the stream, and then we'll go into
instead of
Lofam
doing that,
server.
I'll just say greater discussion, because obviously we're having a discussion between
yeah,
us.
of course, a greater discussion. Like a book club, but different because it's philosophy. Okay.
Yes.
If this is neither my own badness, nor an effect of my own badness, and the common good is not injured, why am I troubled about it? And what is the harm to the common good?
Actually, that makes kind of sense. Like, if people are just... let's say you're looking at somebody, right? And they're not fixing their lives, and they're just, kind of fucked up, right? But it's not your good, and it's not harming people in general. Why would you be worried about it?
That's
their
actually a
own
really good
struggle.
question to ask yourself, too. Like, why are you bothered by it? Is it because they act much like you used to act? Is it because whatever? And then reconciling that and realizing I probably can't help them. If you think you can give them the tools, but that's all you can do. They might not take those tools, But yeah, no, it's a good question. It's a good way. It's just a
well, there's
market
a difference between going and doing the good deed of, like, obviously trying to help somebody, but they specifically say, why am I troubled about it?
Yeah, being troubled about it is very different. You should always ask that. Like, if you're troubled about somebody else's actions and it's not...
You should be asking yourself why you're troubled at that point.
Yeah. Now, again, if the common good is not injured, why am I troubled about it? That's important too. If it's harming the common good, if it's directly harming you to a degree, it's understandable to be troubled. But again, not many things can directly harm you.
At least in Marcus Aurelius's perspective, right?
Yeah, and there are many things that can directly harm you, but not many things can directly harm your soul. Except
I think would be a better description. All right, anyway, continue.
Let me get the timer back up. Do not be carried along inconsiderately by the appearance of things, but give help to all according to your ability and their fitness. And if they should have sustained loss in matters which are indifferent, do not imagine this to be a damage, for it is a bad habit. But as the old man, when he went away, asked back his foster child's top, I don't know what that means, remembering that it was a top, so do you in this case also. Like a spinning top? Did they have those in Rome?
I'm guessing. Well,
I'm
I mean,
gonna assume.
I'm gonna assume. But so the first particular part where he says, and if they should have sustained loss in matters which are indifferent, do not imagine this to be damage, for it is a bad habit. What is it? So what I'm thinking about that is that
he's saying if they have sustained a loss in matters which are indifferent to them, matters that are indifferent to them, like nature, do not imagine this to be a damage, for it is a bad habit. I think again he's saying here, don't lament over something that is indifferent to you, because that is a bad habit. It is.
So, for example, let's say they have a loss because of things that are going against nature, which would be an indifference, right? Because I think for nature is neither good nor bad, so it would be indifference, I think, in this case. So then it would be a bad habit. Oh, so for example, because this is actually kind of an interesting thing to tie a couple ideas that he had in this idea.
Yeah.
Let's say that the person has a temper and got into a fight and like broke an arm or something.
Yep.
That loss, it was from a bad habit of having a temper, since men are made to work for each
That's
other.
not what
as far as Marcus Aurelius is thinking.
saying. That I do not think. Do not
What do
imagine
you
this
think
to
he's
be
saying?
a damage, for that is a bad habit. Imagining that it is that losing something to nature, to something that is indifferent to you, is a damage, is a bad habit. Basically,
Oh,
basically saying
okay.
like,
One of your family members dies.
yeah, like
That's not a loss.
Yeah, I mean it's a loss, but it's not a damage.
Damage. Okay.
It's not something that has been wrought upon you because somebody was conspiring or something was conspiring against you, or your life is just destined to be horrible. I think that's the bad habit he's talking about, personally.
Okay, I can see that. Yeah.
When you are calling out to the rostrum, okay, wait, I need to look that. What the fuck is a rostra? Fucking Latin. The rostra was a large platform built in the city of Rome that stood during the Republican and Imperial periods. Okay, speakers would stand on the rostra and face the north side of the comitium towards the Senate House and deliver orations. Okay, that makes sense. When you are calling out on the rostrum, have you forgotten, man, what these things are? Yes, but they are objects of great concern to these people. Will you too then be made a fool for these things? I was once a fortunate man, but I lost it. I know not how. But fortunate does not mean a man has assigned to himself a good fortune. And a good fortune is good disposition of the soul, good emotions, and good actions. When you are calling...
Let me go through that.
When you are calling out on the rostra, have you forgotten what these things are? Yes, but they are objects of great concern to these people. Oh, he's asking a question and replying to himself as if he were the man on the rostra. Okay. So basically he's saying a person on the rostra has forgotten what these things are.
But
what
are
they're
these
objects
things?
of great concern to the people. I think it's a general thing. And then he says, will you too then be made a fool for these things? Just in general, like somebody is speaking about something, anything, a general subject, and they don't really necessarily understand it. And they're like, but these are great concerns to the people, right? They need to be talked about. And then he asks, will you too be made a fool for these things? I was once a fortunate man, but I lost it. I know not how. But fortunate means that a man has assigned to himself a good fortune. And a good fortune is good disposition of the soul, good emotions, and good actions. Yeah, I think he's having a conversation with himself here.
Okay, so let's break this down because I think there's two sections of this.
Yeah, go ahead.
So there's the whole entire section where he's talking about calling out to the rostra, and I think he is implying that he does not know whatever these objects are, the concerns of the people, he has forgotten them.
Yeah.
And he's saying, will you be made a fool for these things? As in, oh, okay. So for example, let's say that the concern of the people
Taxes.
are, well, I mean, no, whatever. I mean,
War. I mean, you could implement any real concern there.
but I'm trying to think this in a perspective that, have you forgotten what these things are? Will you too then be made a fool for these things? I think he's saying that their concerns are small, and that's why he has forgotten them. I don't know. That first section doesn't make much sense. I know the second one actually makes a lot of sense to me. So it says, "I was once so fortunate, but I lost it. I know not how. But fortunate means that a man has assigned himself a good fortune." This is actually goes back to a thing we were talking about before, where a lot of how you feel is how your view on yourself. So, for example, he's saying that a man is good fortune, is good disposition of the soul, good emotions, and good actions. And so, I mean, you could literally say a poor person in this. I think what he's meaning that even a poor person could have good fortune, as long as they have that perspective of themselves, because they assign it to themselves. Just like you can say, "Oh, I'm having a good day." How could you possibly know? Like, what is when you're having a good day? What is the difference between having a good day and a bad day? Right? You could technically, I mean, if we're just talking about physical means, you could be technically having a greater day than the day you called great. It's really your perspective on what's happening. So I think that's what he's talking about in fortune with this particular the fortune thing, right?
I don't
know if he's necessarily talking about himself in the first section. Because many different types of people talked on the rostrum.
Oh, I'm sure. I'm sure plenty of people did.
It says here, magistrates, politicians, advocates, and other orators spoke to the assembled people of Rome from this highly honored and elevated spot. And I think taking that into context, when you are calling out on the rostra, have you forgotten, man, what these things are? Have they, like, do they actually know what they're talking about? I think that's.
Oh, I think that is what he's talking about. So, for
Yeah.
example, he says, because this is technically the same sentence. Yes, but they are great concern. So he's basically calling out to the person who has forgotten. These are great concern of the people. Will you be made a fool for these things as well? Will you be another person who's just doing nothing about these great concerns?
Yeah.
I think
Yeah,
that's what he's
basically.
talking about.
Yeah, like I thought it was something definitely political, because he doesn't often talk.
Actually, in fact,
politics.
almost nothing about this book has been any political since.
Yeah, and I think this is the
political
first sentence that is both political and kind of philosophical.
I
at
think
this
he's
point.
calling out to the people who get onto the things and have no idea about what the concerns of a normal person is, or what the actual people's
or even
concerns are.
what they're talking about. They're just trying to parrot what the concerns are and really don't know what they're talking about. Like, he says here, have you forgotten, man, what these things are? Yes, but they are objects of great concern to these people, which means they are talking about them, but they've forgotten what they are, which I think kind of implies that they don't
So what I
actually
think
know
it
what
actually is, I think what I was confused about when I originally read this is that I thought it was a back and forth, but I don't think it's a back and forth. I think it's a single stream of words from one person.
Maybe.
And so, no, for example, just imagine that the dashes is a response back to them that has, like, it's not there. So, for example, have you forgotten what these things are? And blah, blah, blah. And the person responds.
Oh, you know what, you're right.
Yes,
That makes sense.
But these are objects for the great concern to the people. Response, will you two then be made a fool for these things? I think it's one person with one, like a single thing
You're right.
to
You're
a
right.
person.
That makes a lot more sense. Because then I was once a fortunate man, but I lost it. I know not how. Response. But fortunate means that a man has assigned to himself a good fortune, and a good fortune is good disposition of the soul, good emotions, and good actions. Yeah, that
So
makes a lot more sense. I like
That's
that.
why I think it's a single stream to a person with invisible responses.
Yeah, there's definitely invisible responses. He was talking to someone in his mind without actual responses. That makes more sense.
That makes
For-
this a
and-
lot more sense.
And it
doesn't it?
actually makes a lot more sense because he's putting himself not on the rostra, but in the audience.
Yes, he is actually.
And that definitely vibes with like a lot of what Marcus Aurelius has been saying. So
yes, this actually does make a lot more sense when you put it in that perspective.
I am actually glad that we delved deeper into that because that was very important.
It didn't make a lot of sense, but when you're like, oh, this is actually a single person calling out to somebody who's on the rostra.
Yeah, no, it makes a lot more sense now. So, questions, thoughts, ideas? Open forum, baby. I mean, it's always an open forum, but now it's more open than ever. Well,
So
to some
the thing
degree,
is,
that's... Sorry, go ahead.
oh, okay. So I was gonna answer Keok's position. So, okay. So how can a CEO make benefiting changes for the one bottom worker if he is in his position? I think this is a question that I've actually asked myself a lot. Because the thing is, what it really comes down to is, I think this is like my whole entire struggle with ambition. I think this will help with the CEO question. Okay, the CEO is obviously always like very determined in what they're doing, and they're going to be leading the company, right? If the CEO can arrange his or her goals in a way that would be considered good. And what I mean by that is like the goals that they make should be good. And what I mean by that is like, so for example, it's very difficult. So for a company, you could say, I want my company to beat the opposition and be the best, to take a whatever market, blah, 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 blah. And the reason we're doing that is because I want to make more money for the company, and so that everybody in the company can make more money. Right? Like that's
That could
like
be considered
arranging
good.
your goals with ambition to have a better outcome that everybody can benefit from. Now, if your goals are shallow enough to where you're not arranging it, to where you're saying, I just want to make more money, if that's all your goal is, then there's a lot of ways of doing that. But as you arrange your goals saying that I want to make more money to be the best so that my people, whoever my people are, can be paid more, then that's a little different.
Yeah.
So I think all it is
I have an example of that right there if you want it. A very good example. So, about in 2009, I don't know if any of you saw this in the news, but there was a little box, a miracle box, that was said to be able to diagnose multiple different types of medical issues in a person with just a single drop of blood. Do you guys remember this? Anyone? It was in the news.
Ring a bell.
It was a huge thing. Well, basically, it was all a big hoax, a horrible hoax, where the main CEO of this quote-unquote company was taking investors and basically saying like, oh, we can't show you how it works. It's basically a Ponzi scheme to some degree. We can't show you how it works because it's a trade secret. Then convincing them with her charismatic charm. Taking the money and just kind of like keeping it. And they made these boxes, but the boxes didn't work. They were out on Walgreens, but 90% of the time, Walgreens had to take a full thing of blood and actually test for these things because the boxes didn't actually work. There was no actual science backing them. She's still being like investigated for this entire situation. But it turns out that her entire goal, even when she was like a teenager, was to be a billionaire woman. That was her goal. That was the entire, like a very shallow goal. And this is the kind of thing that can happen with that kind of goal. Many people were hurt by this because many people got false positives. Many people got false negatives. There were a lot of medical issues that were popping up to millions of people around America because of this very shallow goal. So I think that's a very good example of what you were talking about.
Yeah, and so what I would say for the CEO is that you should really look at what your goal is for the company beforehand, because it's very easy just to fall into the ideas like, well, I'm a company, I should just be making more money. I think that you should have a bit more thought into what you're doing than just that. And the more thought you get into it, the higher chance that people below you, even if you're not in their position, will have a better outcome.
And that's only going to elevate the company itself further, because if they have a better position, they can work more efficiently and work better.
So, like, okay, an easy example. Let's say that if your goal is to do better so that your people are also doing better, then obviously one of the things you're not going to do is try to cut their pay. But if it's only about making money, then even your own people cutting their pay is an option to reach that goal, right? I think like you can see where this starts to come. Like, you really need to have a solid goal, because like they're going to make rules and boundaries about how you're going to go about whatever goal it is, and I think that's really important.
Yep.
I think this is also should be a thing that you can do in your own life, but you should be arranging your goals not for just like a very specific thing. So, for example, let's say you're the head of a household. I think your goals should be more thought out than just like, this is where we're going to go and this is what we're going to do.
Could we say it's better to have a finish line than to have goals meet it? I don't know what you mean by that. I'm sorry, Fracta.
Well, I don't think it would be good to actually have a finish line for the CEO situation, because the company is just not going to stop, right? That's why I think, because you can have new goals. Goals can be updated, blah, 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 blah. That's why I say goals instead of a finish line. Because generally when you're done with the finish line, or you get to the finish line, it's done.
You're good. You're good, Fracta. I think a good example of good CEOs / good business practices are, for instance, let's just take this isn't as high as a CEO, but the Animal Crossing section of Nintendo, right?
Okay. Okay, sure.
So the Animal Crossing section specifically is set up to make sure that their developers and all the people working on an Animal Crossing game have
a good work-life schedule so they can be with their families. Like, that's a goal that they have. They know what, like, they have that in their mind constantly, the higher-ups. That is a goal that they want. They want to make sure that their people can still live their life while working. So no crazy crunch or any of that crazy stuff. I mean, you could say that's a good goal, a bad goal. Maybe it makes a worse game. That's up to you to say. But I personally think that's a good goal, and it has it has the people that are working in mind for that goal. So, just a good example.
Actually, I think this actually does kind of make sense. It's like, so when I was talking about like arranging your goals, that includes more. I think that makes sense. So, for example, as you get more responsibility, and the CEOs should be having more responsibility. That's one of the stated reasons they get paid more, right? Is that their responsibility is for more. And if that's true, their goals should include more people in that responsibility.
Exactly. And yes, Fracta, I would say you should have an end game plan and have smaller goals to get to that end game, that big goal. But once you get there, you should also have more goals beyond that. Whether you are doing, as Aurelia said, with termination of your desire, or you further this goal that you have already finished, that is up to you. But yes, you should basically have lots of little small goals to a big goal.
Yeah, so I think this is another example that I could do. Is like, say a family. Let's say you are the head of the household and you have like 6 children, shitloads of children, whatever, right? Just imagine, and they're all your responsibility, obviously, since they're your family or the head of the household.
That's a lot of people.
Well, yeah, I mean, for for the head of household. What if you only made plans and your goals only involved 4 of the children? 2 of them just left out. I mean, would you say you're doing a good job at that point?
I think we could all say that's kind of fucked.
That's all. Yeah, that's really fucked, right? You're
that's
just like
really
leaving
fucked.
it out there. Like, you're leaving it to their own devices. They're not getting any support, anything
Unless
like that.
one of them is a goblin spawn. Fucking goblins.
But I mean, you understand my point that it's actually, if you take it down to a smaller scale, of like going from CEO to say head of household, you can easily make an example of like, oh yeah, that's really fucked up, and their goals should include the whole family. I think that's the same situation for the CEO. When the CEOs, and I think they've been encouraged in different ways,
and
of not include have their goals not include the very people that are part of the company. I think that's when we start having problems where there's no wage growth and they don't. It's really bad for them, for the actual workers.
Yeah, there's a lot of economic shit that goes into that, but
there is a lot of economics, and I think it's incentives based on other things, which will go. That's economics. That's not philosophy.
Yeah.
I just think that the CEO's goal should also include the people in the company, because that is the company.
Okay. Wait, I thought of something I heard once. Someone said it's impossible to care for everyone in your corp, but what you can do is do your best to instill your love, values, and hard work to the ones in your corp. And in turn, they do that as well to their underlings. Yeah. So.
Yeah, no, that's what.
That's exactly what it is. Like, you can't know and take care of everyone inside of your corporation, and inevitably there will be some amount of suffering for someone. Your success will probably harm someone else. That is an inevitability. It's competition. That's not the issue. But if you truly have your workers in mind, and you instill these ideas into your company, then those ideas will carry on to the rest of the people in your company, generally speaking.
Now, I think this is also important to say. You could also have these things, but in a negative. As in, you think they are good things, but they're actually not. Or you could have things that that are priorities that are only for a very small portion of your workers. So so for example, let's say you think you're doing the right thing, but your plans only involve one of your family instead of the other 6. Once again, yes, you can be putting a lot of thought and care into it, but it's just not doing good.
Yeah.
Anyway, So is there anything else you want to say before we move on? Because I'm pretty sure it's been
I think
almost
I've
3.5
said
hours.
basically. Yeah, I think I've basically said everything I have to say about this chapter of the book. It was quite satisfying. Very good chapter. Not
I
as
think
good
it
as
was
chapter
better than the previous one. I think, but I still
Mhm.
think 3 is by far the best so far.
3. Yeah, 3 was amazing. I really got to plur it. We're not doing Raft today because
It's been a while.
it's been a while.
been
That
a
was a good
while.
chapter though, and we actually had a lot of interaction this time. I'm very happy with the turnout. I'm glad so many people are interested in philosophy. It makes me very warm and cozy inside of my heart place.
Well, as you're plotting and doing credits, I think one of the things is, so for example, we could have easily done meditations with less hassle if we didn't do it on stream, right?
Yeah.
I think that's pretty easy to say. But one of our
Yeah.
goals for it was like we actually want to involve other people because
Mhm.
I think it could actually do
Because
good.
we actually talked about that. Like we talked about like, well, I mean, we could make a more polished, kind of like pretty looking.
Yeah, we actually
product.
did talk about doing
If-
the YouTube thing where we do
yeah.
where there's not a
Like,
lot of interaction back and forth though.
We could make a more polished, like beautiful product on YouTube. It could get a lot more views, but at the same time, we wanted that interactivity. Like we weighed the pros and cons, and we were like, yeah, that interactivity, that ability to have an open conversation with the viewers is very important to us when we actually make this. But yeah, I'm gonna plur it. You continue the conversation.
Oh, I mean, it was just something that I was actually thinking about. I don't know. It's a lot of these things are going to really also be dependent on context. But thank you for the questions, by the way, Fracta. I know you sometimes say that you have difficulty or you apologize for them, but that's perfectly fine. Don't worry about it. Oh yeah, does anybody have any questions before we go ahead and end? I do know that, as I said, we're probably going to be moving over to Discord. I'm not sure how long I have in Discord simply because I also need to do dinner. It's 4:28 for me, and I know it's pretty late for Nevi as well. And once we move it over to Discord, it's going to be, I mean, we're going to be open to more questions than just what, you know, this particular book said or was talking about. Got that burning question? Just go ahead and ask us. All right, cool. I'm glad I was able to help. I'm still reading that last section. Oh,
Our turn.
okay, go for your question. Oh, welcome back.
Mm-hmm.
I got a burning question. How do I put it out? So yeah, I would put water on it, take a bath.
No. If it's that bad, you need to drop and roll.
And do the
Drop
dinosaur.
and roll. Stop, drop, and roll, Wolf. I don't want you to die.
What would you take of the whole book today, Lofam? Okay, okay. So of this book, I would actually say that he was talking about himself and his problems more in this chapter than most.
Mm.
And actually, I can actually point this out, is that he actually talked about something specific in like political terms when he's talking about like the Rostra and other things about himself. I think he was, as I said before, this is something that I think his chapter was specifically to him.
Mm.
I think this chapter had some. I think this chapter actually had some definitely very, very important things, such as thoughts and like how you actually.
How he ordered the world around him.
No, I think one of the big things is that he was always questioning himself about where he was, his duty, what he should be doing, what he wanted to do, like what he considered good, what he considered bad. I think one of the biggest things is that Marcus, even his ideas, was always in like a tumult. Like he was always thinking about a bunch of different things at the same time. I think his position really kind of forced that upon him. I think he may have actually had a much easier life if he wasn't the emperor. I think actually him being the emperor was a great weight on him because he actually put a lot of what he considered duty into being the emperor. Obviously, it really paid off for everybody.
He
for
clearly
him.
cared about it.
I just think it's actually rather interesting that I think it actually was a big weight for him, like being the emperor. Like whereas other people think it's like, oh, I have all this power. He's like, no, I have all this duty, and he was even afraid that the people would enslave him in a way where they would force him to do things he didn't want to do, just by his position.
I know that's a silly joke question, York, but that's not possible. I don't think that's actually possible given how
No, I don't think he did this for clout.
I don't think it's even possible given how many other writings speak of his actions and such. I do find myself curious, however, to when he first saw death in his life.
It was probably really early on, to be fair.
That's what I mean. Yeah, first of all, it's Rome, but it also feels like mortality was very heavily weighing on his mind, and he was kind of grappling with that and coming to an understanding with it.
Well, the thing you have to also consider is that our life expectancy now is
much
double,
greater,
if not almost triple what it was then.
I also have to wonder, like, when he first saw killing, like in war, for instance.
I think he lived a very different.
Yeah, he did live a very different life. These are just questions that interest me that'll never actually get answers, so they're kind of meaningless, but just interesting. It makes you ponder.
Though, as I said before, I do think that being the emperor was a great weight for him, but I think even in his own words and his own actions, since he did his duty, I don't really think he did do his duty, at least in this particular case, that by doing his nature and doing his duty as he said it himself, wrote these books and did an immeasurable number of good to a lot of people. Because whether or not you believe in like all of Stoicism, definitely this book has a lot of great ideas that would help even a person today, right? Where you would think that books from 2,000 years ago would not be very they wouldn't have like the topics that would actually affect you. These do. Like this is like almost a timeless book as long as you're a human.
Yep. It's important.
I just think that's interesting.
It's always important, and I think this is something that we've lost in the industrial and science era, to remember that science isn't everything. Science is cold and ever-changing. It's not something that can explain your life or your meaning. Right?
I wouldn't say that. What I would say is that I do not believe that science will fulfill all of human needs.
Exactly. Now, what I mean, that's basically what I mean by it's cold and ever-changing. Science, to some degree, is an opinion, like we've said before. Except for mathematical laws, it is an opinion. They're all theories that have some basis, but are ever-changing because new things pop up that are like, wait, that's not how that works. What's going on, right? And I think it's important to take philosophy into account when you're trying to figure out what you want out of life, because science isn't going to have that answer for you.
Yes. Science is not going to give you a purpose.
Unless like the furthering of science
is your purpose, right?
Yeah, unless the furthering of science is your purpose. But that's that's completely different than science giving you a purpose. That's you taking science as your purpose. So
yeah, that would be almost saying like a mathematical equation can give me a purpose. Yeah, it's not going to do it. It's not going to happen.
It's certainly beautiful in its own way, but it's not going to give you purpose at all. Like the laws of entropy are not going to give me purpose. Like that's not how that works.
And actually, I think that's really important because I think as we've gone into the industrial age, we have relied and grown a very specific portion of humanity, which is our science and technology. And we have left out things that I think important things that humanity needs. I think, the mythos of what it is to be a man, what it is to be women, those kind of things. I think those things have atrophied to a point where we're having issues greatly. And we turn to science and it's not giving us great answers.
Mm-hmm. And then when science doesn't give us answers, we come up with answers ourselves without really
Weird
turning to anything
ones.
else. Very weird ones.
It was actually really funny because I was watching a video. That was one of the I think I've watched a good bit of PewDiePie, but there's a couple of videos about PewDiePie that I actually really enjoyed, and they're always the ones about philosophy because I think it's rather interesting. And this is another one of the reasons I'm doing this stream and whatnot, is that I'm always interested in what people actually think. Whether or not I actually agree with them, I actually enjoy knowing what people think and then have them try to explain it.
Me and York have had multiple, I wouldn't call them debates. They're not heated, but they're not contentious enough for that. But we've had multiple discussions because I'm just interested in how he sees the world. Well, I
mean, in this particular case, it's like a one-sided thing where the person is putting forth their idea and then they explain it with what information they have. I think that's really
honestly why I
interesting.
like doing this as a stream, because it's not as one-sided where you're just putting forth your ideas. You have other people asking questions like York. They're putting out. The people are just putting their things out there.
What I was going to finish with it is that there was a particular thing that, I mean, I'm not sure I particularly agree with it, but it was rather interesting to see it from their perspective. So they were talking about eudaimonia, which is human happiness, right?
Yeah.
And he was talking about like, oh yeah, people are always wondering, what is happiness, like what it is to be happy as a human. But we've had that answer for 2,000 years. It was answered back then. And so I thought it was rather interesting that PewDiePie came to the conclusion that we as humans know what the answer is, but we have specifically ignored it for a long period of time. I thought that was rather interesting that he thought that.
I think a better way to say it is that we've forgotten it.
No. I think ignored would be more specific, because
I say forgotten because our culture, as humanity, much of our culture has forgotten these lessons that have been taught to us by our ancestors. Right? They're still there, and we can still relearn them, but it's not specifically because a lot of people aren't even aware that they're there. So it's not that they're actually ignoring it, it's just that they're ignorant of it existing in the first place.
Well, I think they're ignorant of it in the first place because some people specifically ignored it.
Yeah, that's
because those kind of things have to pass on. They have to be highlighted and whatnot. And so at some point, somebody had to say, you know what? Fuck that, I'm going to ignore it, even though that was an answer, right?
Yeah, no, that's fine.
And I was just saying, I think that was rather interesting to see that he's like, look, we have the answers of what human happiness is. It's it's habit, it's doing, these things, actually being good, whatnot. I just thought that was really interesting. So it was just me.
I mean, it's actually interesting because a lot of people, I mean, I'm not going to say most, but a lot of people are coming to this conclusion that dude, philosophy, theology, and many other cultures just have this answer, and it's really fucking good.
Well, they have an answer. For example, I have, how many times I have met an atheist who hated religion, and then this is probably one of the biggest times, after 5 years, they say, I don't hate religion, I don't personally believe in it, but religion has a purpose. Do you know how many atheists I've fucking heard that that particular saying come out of their mouth? Almost every single goddamn one of them. They're like, oh yeah, religion definitely has a purpose. And it's because they realize that it gives an answer that
nothing else can answer.
Nothing else can, right? It gives a purpose,
philosophy
something
and
very
religion
specific.
are very, very closely intertwined, in my personal opinion.
I would say religion has a bundle of philosophies in it.
Exactly. It's stories. Again, like we said earlier, stories are told, and stories almost always have a purpose. Almost always.
Anyway, I think we should go, and we should move this over.
So that's a good place to call it. Yes, I think we can call it an answer. And with that,
yeah, no, I definitely think we can call it an answer. Yeah, for sure.
And with that, if you have any other questions, we will be discussing more on Lofam server. So meet us there.
On my server.
Oh, do you want to do it on my server?
I mean, yeah, I'll do it on mine. Whatever.
Well, you said your server earlier, so I just figured.
I just said Discord.
Oh, that's fair. I just assumed, and that's what I get for being a sumptuous bitch.
Hi, some of these blue eyes white bitch.
Blue eyes, white bitch. So thank you for coming, everyone. Stay safe. I hope you enjoyed your time here. If you haven't already, which I'm sure you have, but if you haven't already, please go check out Lofam. Lofam does some amazing content. Terraria, bitch.
Very rarely. I just need to, do it more often.
Amazing content. It's rare. It's like a diamond. Diamond isn't good because they're pretty common these days. It's like dark matter. It's rare but beautiful.
Sure.
Yep. Rare, mysterious, and beautiful, just like a unicorn. Except they don't actually exist, and this actually exists. Anyway, so tomorrow, I still haven't decided. I am stuck between either doing Still There or what's it called? Cultist Simulator. I'll be decided by tomorrow.
Cultist Simulator is not a big story, by the way. There's like a lot more mechanics to it.
Yeah, but it seems fun, and I can build a story around what we're doing, which could be fun. Which could be fun. Still There, though, has really got me because it's one of those like in-depth psychological thriller adventure games, like point-and-click adventure games, where a lot of it is just about like existence and psychology and like existential horror. That's my shit. I love that shit so much. Yes, Wolf, more cults. I know you love cults. Lofam, no!
I spilled the jam!
That's not jam.
Someone
That's
has
not
spilled
jam,
jam
Lofam.
in here.
Do you mind if I lick your cheek? I do love jam.
I do mind.
That's not jam.
The wind has blown over this chair, and someone has spilled jam all over here. Oh, look, there's this puddle of jam. I wonder where this came from.
Oh, no.
Oh, and somebody's sleeping in that corner with jam all over their body.
Oh, no. Nevi was so frightened seeing this horrible, disgusting jam mess that she fell down the stairs and died.
In a puddle of jam.
In another puddle of jam. She slipped on some jam.
That's
anyway.
Somebody's at my door.
Anyway, thank you for coming. It's always fun having you guys here. I don't think we're going to do a raid today. I'd like to focus on the conversation. So please, if you're not in the Discord, consider joining the Discord. I will also send out a Lofam Discord link in just a moment. Twitch.tv/Lofam. I know he has his Discord link there somewhere.
Anyway, so I'm going to jump over to my channel, I guess. Music and podcasts. I got some music ready to go.
Yeah, one sec. I'm putting your Discord in my chat. So come join. We're going to have some conversations, some music, some good stuff. Stay safe. Keep hydrated, and we'll see you there. Thanks for coming. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Carol, how do I roll the credits? I forgot. No. Just fucking do it for me.
That's all, folks.
Carol's being a bitch again, sorry.
I'm sure.